nail friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what, told you I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up. Only buying car till you get tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. I ran up a check.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Another exciting week here of A&M, Almost Mediocre Sports Guys. I'm Anthony. Here's Mike.
Howdy.
How's it going?
How's everybody doing? Well, as I like to say, bud, a little sick, a little sober, and probably just a little bit sorry.
Nah, hey. Can all live with that, right? We can all live with that.
Yeah.
Why not?
I gotta say real quick though, before we get going, I gotta say this. Yeah. It's funny how the mind, you just don't like. You're only as old as you feel, right? You know how the saying goes, you're only as old as you feel? Well, that's absolutely, that's I guess it's true, maybe it's not. I do know, like I told you earlier today was house cleaning day, trying to take care of the chores, get those things out of the way, that type of thing. But it started out feeling really good, conquer the world, everything's going great. About halfway through, the body starts to remind you that, physically this might not be in your best interest because you're slightly older than you feel. So by the time you're done, it's either lay down for a while or get out and call the hospital and see how long it takes to get an ambulance over to help get you to the hospital because you're starting to cramp.
Well, exactly. I know exactly how you. I mean, my birthday's Monday. I'm gonna be turning 34, right? And on top of that, last week, I told you we went golfing.
Yeah.
And we went on a Sunday. That was probably the worst thing I could have ever did was go on a Sunday because of the fact that I haven't been golfing in a long time. And then to try to get to work the next day and still make it through the day. Oh my goodness. I have never felt so bad after doing something. You know what I mean? Like I was tired.
Yep.
Tired.
Yep.
Come Monday. So,
I
mean, I get it.
Yeah, but because then we went out to eat after that because we didn't eat anything before we started, right? Just wanted to get a start on everything because we had to clean up the whole house. Yeah. So we go out to eat, and then coming back, my wife is driving us back. And I'm literally falling asleep. I mean, I'm like, this is insane. It's not like I went and I never even really broke a sweat. Okay, folks, I didn't actually break a sweat. I think I did it. I think I helped out. I think I did my part, but I never broke a sweat. Yet here I am in the car on the way home, and it's all I could do to stay awake. It's pretty sad. It really is pretty sad.
Well, I mean, we only can get older from here on out, right? That's all we can do.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Like I told my wife, it might be time to contemplate putting me down. I'm not sure. We'll just have to see what she wants to do.
Well, I mean, we do that, then where do I go with the show after that? It's just going to be 8?
Okay, well, let me reach out to her and I'll put that on pause.
I think she's already figuring out how to do it. Well, sounds good. Good to be back here. Another week coming in. This show is going to be a little bit different today, guys. Obviously, like we talked about the past few weeks, sports kind of a little bit on a slowdown. Obviously, the tournament's starting to get there, though. I mean, we're getting into some tournament stuff for college basketball, March Madness. We're in that March season now. Obviously, conference tournaments getting going, so we will be getting into that. Trust me, we are going to start getting into those. But today's just going to be a little bit more of a fun day for us. We're going to go over a few things that we kind of talked about together that we thought would be fun to talk with you guys. Just really kind of enjoy. We're not doing a beef of the week this week because, like I said, this is going to be more of a fun show where we just kind of want to have fun with everything like that. So let us know, though, too, if you guys really do enjoy that beef of the week. that we do and stuff like that. If you enjoy it and want us to keep it going, we will keep doing that. Obviously, top 10, we will be doing that this week. Obviously, I know we said that we were going to kind of let you guys know what it was going to be, and this week we're actually going to do our top 10 video games of all time that we've done. So we're going to have some throwbacks for you. I'll tell you that right now, guys. There will be some throwbacks on here. So sit back and enjoy it. Definitely hope you guys enjoy this one. Like I said, leave some comments. Let us know how it is for you guys. Let us know exactly some of your top 10s when we get there too, or if you guys want to start listing them now, please feel free. But to start off the show here, I kind of wanted to just kind of give a little talks here about Kelsey, Mr. Jason Kelsey, who has decided to hang it up after 13 seasons playing center for the Philadelphia Eagles. And man, what a ball player, huh, Mike?
Oh man, bud. I tell you, obviously, familiar with his work, so to speak, particularly over the last few years, going back to the Super Bowl 52 and what they did, against New England and getting the championship. But it really wasn't until this past week that I really sort of looked into his background with his stats and got a better idea of just, really how. I mean, I knew he was a very, very good center, very good ball player. But looking at the stats, it was even more impressive as to what he's actually done. I know that, and I wanted to mention this too with him, and I know you've got some too, Rob, but I do know he, as far as the center position goes, I do know that he is the only center with 6 first-team All-Pro selections who has a Super Bowl title. Pretty rare,
okay.
rare.
Yeah.
Also, the most selections first team by any player in his 30s, 6. And he also played 193 games in 13 seasons. And when you're talking about,
nice.
And as you know, defensive line, offensive line, these are the guys in the trenches. These are the guys, really, for the most part, if they're recognized, is by their peers. The general populace, the fans, aren't always even going to be aware of just what they do because it's not the glamour position. It's not what everybody pays attention to.
Well, and see, that's kind of why I want to bring it up. And guys, this is kind of why we're talking more about Jason. We are actually big fans of the offensive linemen. I mean, we've always talked about them being one of the strongest people out there on the field. They go through so much. I mean, they're getting beat up every single game. I mean, they're having contact every play. Every play these guys have contact with them. And to be able to last 13 years, in the league is great. Also doing it with the same team for his whole entire career is nice too. That's really great, and a tremendous person too. Really, really good person. Kelsey is too. So, really going to be sad to see him go. Like I said, that's why we kind of wanted to bring him up, just to start off the show here and just kind of say, congratulations, on what you've accomplished. I'm glad he's able to get a ring before it was all said and done. But just thank you for the memories is definitely something I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, and just one last thing from my side of it, but as you mentioned, just to touch on a little bit what you mentioned just now, obviously also a very good family man involved in this community.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Obviously relationship with his brother Travis and everything that goes on with his play on the offensive side of the ball. But and I do think. And I won't say for sure. I wouldn't envision him being potentially a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I gotta believe, based on the stats that I happen to come across in my research, and just again back to your length of time that he played, Super Bowl championship, that type of thing, 2 Super Bowls. Obviously lost to Kansas City. I gotta believe that he should be a lock for the Hall of Fame at some point.
Oh yeah, I believe so. I think he definitely is in. It's funny. We've talked about this before in the past about which people we thought that should be in, shouldn't be in. Obviously, that's a conversation for maybe another time that we can get into. But I definitely believe that there should be a spot in there for Jason Kelsey, and I believe he will be in there. He may not be that first time in, but I do think he will be in there.
Yeah, it also kind of begs the question if you're obviously a sports enthusiast, well, it's football for sure. I'm not sure how many brother tandems are in the NFL Hall of Fame, just off the top of my head. So that could be unique because we know Travis is going in, and he's probably going in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. So I'd be kind of curious, maybe somewhere down the line.
Off the top of my head, what, like Sterling and Shannon? They're in there together, right?
I'm not sure, but I don't know Sterling in.
Is he in?
I don't think he. Yeah, I won't swear to it. I mean, if anybody out there knows for a fact, please chime in and let us know. I'm going to say I don't think he is, bud. But obviously Shannon is. And I think when Shannon did his Hall of Fame speech, I think he acknowledged that something along the lines that he'd like to proceed.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's not in there, he better be. He needs to get
I thought he should be. I
think just obviously I know it's the injuries and stuff for sure, but man, Sterling Sharp was something crazy. I mean, he was better than Shannon, a lot of people would say.
Shannon would tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, he was a tremendous ball player too, but yeah, I mean, that might be something to look into. We definitely might need to look into that. I mean, obviously, like you said, I believe Jason should be in. We know Travis should be in, no matter what. So yeah, that might be something interesting to look up and see. About brothers.
Yeah, and again, if anybody out there happens to know, if you're watching right now, or just if you're viewing the video later on, please insert your comments. We'd love to know if you're on top of that, and if you know any other brothers that are in the Hall of Fame that we're not aware of, please let us know.
Definitely. Well, like I said, we just wanted to kind of throw that out there to start out the show. Hope everything goes well on your retirement, and just enjoy it. Enjoy it. You deserve it. Yes, sir. So moving on, kind of a cool little thing that I kind of wanted to that I brought up to Mike, midway through the week, and seeing this just kind of scrolling through, social media and stuff like that, and this picture had popped up about, Golden State, if they added Shaq to their team now, Kobe, they added him to the Bucks right now, Larry Bird to the Lakers, and MJ to the Nuggets. And these are all, they're adding them to the team right now. Kind of threw it out to Mike, which team do you feel out of these four is the best team, maybe? A team that maybe you would really actually enjoy watching? Or if you put these guys in, the league together, all in their primes, obviously, for like a 10-year span, who do you think comes out with the most championships, or who has, the best run with these teams here? Mike, why don't you start us off? I mean, kind of give us your thoughts about this, and maybe let us know who you like the most, or who you think kind of would kind of thrive the best, as they would say, especially because obviously we think about this too as playing in today's game. So we're talking about this era too, which makes it a whole lot different too.
Yeah, it does. When you present me that picture and this topic, when I finally had a chance to sit down and look at it, and then when I finally decided, had a time to really start looking at the order I would place them in, it really became a little bit more difficult than I expected it to be. Because you really did, as you mentioned, you're talking about not just the three players that we're talking about being added to that particular unit, but again the pieces that surround them with what's currently on those teams. So with the 4th spot, I went ahead and I went with Golden State in my 4th spot. You did a phenomenal video, as we've touched on before, about the great players in history, and it wound up being a top 12, and Shaq was obviously on that list. But as the game is formatted right now, would Shaq dominate inside in any era? Yes, he would, because just in physical size alone, this guy would be almost impossible to stop, just because he is such a big individual, particularly when you get him inside the paint, that type of thing. Where I begin to draw some concerns with Shaq, as it relates to the other three scenarios, is where we're at in today's game, and it started again in the 80s with guys like Robinson, Olajuwon, and into the early 90s, but obviously with Ewing. You had centers that could step outside the box, so to speak, and they could hit from outside. And I think this is where, with certain teams, you could take advantage of that with Golden State if Shaq was on the team. I just think if you force him outside like that, it can almost become a hindrance. If Shaq's got to come out and try to, because he's not going to be able to do that as effectively. Obviously, he can dominate the paint, cover anything that comes within striking distance, so to speak. As it relates to Curry and Thompson, from outside, phenomenal shooters. Curry, as you know, if we talked about this, for me personally, Curry, he's generational. He's changed how the game is played at that position. And Clay's right there too. He's a great outside shooter. What I'd be concerned about too is and they all have these games where, if you're not on, other people have got to pick up the slack. And each of these teams has that ability, but it's not guaranteed. And when you're striking from outside, the three-point percentages are typically not going to be high in the first place. If you're in the 30s for the game, that's probably real good. Sometimes the 40s. If these guys are off, that's something that could potentially bite you in the backside. But as you mentioned too, if we're looking like in a 10-year span, and I think I'll touch on that real quick once we get the 4 teams out of the way. I'll get what I think each team could potentially win as far as championships go in a 10-year span. But right now, going out of the gate, of the top 4 of these 4 selections that we're looking at, these 4 possibilities, I've got Shaq and Curry and Thompson at 4.
Okay, yeah. I mean, obviously this is tough. I mean, all these 4 teams will obviously dominate.
Oh
regardless.
yeah.
I mean, these are your top 4 teams that you would have. I mean, regardless if you did all this. But for me, I'd have to go with the Lakers at the 4th spot, only because if you look at these other 3 teams, they all have a point guard running their team. That Lakers team, I mean, obviously you have to think about it. It's going to be this team now. So, I mean, I'm not saying Bird and LeBron and AD are not going to be great together, because they will be. I mean, that's crazy insane, but you're going to have D'Angelo Russell running your offense, through. I mean, obviously I'm assuming LeBron would probably have the ball more in his hands, so he would be probably more the point guard, because he can kind of, look to drive more, kick out to Bird and things like that, let Bird work, but they don't have a point guard. And we all know that how important a point guard is, where the rest of these teams all do. You got Murray, you got Lillard, and you got Steph. So for me, I would have to put them there, because for me, I love trying to start my team with the big man and the point. Those are my 2 ones that I like to always try to make sure that I have somebody really good there. Somebody, and point guard doesn't necessarily mean that they have to go out and score a whole bunch of points or this and that. It's just more of being able to control the game, being able to be the leader. And I don't see that on that Lakers team right now. And obviously, even right now on this team, Reeves has been playing bad recently. I mean, D'Angelo Russell just doesn't play defense and stuff like that. I mean, obviously he just went off though, I think last night for like 44 points. So we know he's a scorer, but still, if you can't play defense, I mean, it doesn't help you one bit. But for me, my 4 would be the Lakers on this one, only because of that reason, with no point guard.
Yeah, and real quick, but our folks, just so we reestablish, this isn't a list that Anthony and I came up with. This is one that was presented to Anthony through his research. Yeah. So this isn't something that we put together. We're going off of what was presented to Anthony. At my 3, and kind of touching on your point, Bud, I did have the Lakers at 3. And in part because, and you make great points in talking about, with the point guard situation with Lakers. What I do like with this particular collection of, if we're just looking at those 3 in particular, and the surrounding pieces are still there, obviously. What I like with Bird, and this would be with him with any team. We saw it with Boston. He is such a facilitator of the basketball. He has some of the best court vision that I've ever seen in the years I've been viewing basketball. The ability to find the open man, drive, kick, shoot, basically the whole package. Pretty good defensive ball player. And I just think with that aspect of what Bird brings to things, that would allow them to be not so much one-dimensional. If you transition over to Davis, and this is where I kind of, I talked about Shaq being a person that you obviously keep inside the paint. He's going to collect his points inside. He'll dominate inside defensively. When we look at Davis, this is a guy that you can take outside the box. He can even hit the occasional 3. We've seen him do it. So he can play different aspects of the court. Obviously, dominant inside. He's a great defensive ball player. If he could really truly stay healthy, and I think we've talked about this, Davis, if he would have been able to stay healthy his entire career up to this point, I think his overall dominance would be so much more significant, I'll put it that way, than what has been up to this point.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because obviously, if you look at this list
Yeah,
right here with these, well, I mean he's fourth on the
yeah.
list. I mean behind Jokic,
The
Giannis,
one,
and Shaq,
the,
for sure. As far as the big men that you see on the screen right now, but obviously he's considered the center. Giannis is more the power
yeah,
forward. Shaq's the center. But so it's like Brooke Lopez in Milwaukee. I think is
exactly.
that who their center is. So I mean he could obviously dominate Brooke if he wanted to, but
Now,
I mean, there's other players in here that that step up on that team, and I just I'm with you on that. AD needs to stay healthy
that's
for
on my
his whole
next point,
career to be
bud.
able
And
to.
and and not only that, but also the fact that I think sometimes Davis he struggles with motivation, and I think that that's when you have a team, when you have a collective five, and you're looking at what they can do as a unit, you've got to have everybody on board, everybody invested in winning and losing. And I don't know sometimes that Davis is always able to motivate himself. And with
Oh
Shaq,
yeah.
Shaq could motivate himself when necessary, but sometimes Davis doesn't seem to be able to. And that's part of today's collective, I think, basketball mentality. But we've touched on that. But and obviously, again, you're looking at LeBron, and LeBron speaks for himself. Whether we have criticisms of him or not, he's still probably one of the top five greatest basketball players in the history of the game. And
Yeah.
we've seen what he can do. And I think even if you've got a situation with the Davis where maybe he's not completely motivated at times, I think those are situations where a guy like LeBron, obviously a guy like Bird, they can buffer those situations. With the Lakers. But with Davis, I just like his ability to step outside and make the shots when he needs to from outside, an occasional three, like I mentioned. And he can obviously, when he's really truly motivated, his defensive game is absolutely spectacular.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree
Yeah.
with you for sure. I mean, my number three squad, I actually moved to where you I have Golden
Okay.
State as my number three squad, and only because, like I said, we're playing right now. This is going on to and they have Clay on there,
Yeah.
right? But Clay's moved to the
Yeah.
bench, right? I mean, Clay hasn't been playing terrifically. Draymond hasn't played spectacularly. Obviously, he did just pass though Bird in three pointers for his career just recently too. But there's just something weird about that. I mean, that Golden State team still hangs in there. Obviously, Steph's a big part of that. I mean, he's a huge part of it for sure. But to see him and Shaq together, I mean, that would be crazy. I mean, the dominance would be crazy to watch because, especially in this era, because like you said, Shaq can dominate in any era. He can. I mean, he's back to the basket. He's pound you into the
Yeah.
middle and just dunk it. But the nice part for him about this, and he's had it because he had Kobe. Kobe could shoot, but when you have a 3-point shooter like that, that makes it dangerous as hell because for him, he's going to be inside. If that double team comes, I mean, he's able to just throw it out to Curry and to shoot the outside shot as well as Curry does. I mean, he can shoot it from
Oh yeah.
anywhere on that court. I mean, that's more insane. I mean, Kobe, we all know how great of a scorer Kobe was. We're not taking it, but Kobe wasn't a shooter like Steph
Yeah.
was. There's a difference between being a scorer, a pure scorer, and great by making your own shot, and being a shooter like what Steph is. And I would really be interested to see what him and Steph could do together because I think that would actually be kind of fun to watch possibly. But I don't think they're better than the other two on this list. Obviously, I think they're better than the Lakers, but I don't think they're better against the Bucks or the Nuggets in this situation.
Yeah, I struggled. I wavered just a little bit between the three and the two, kind of what you're talking about. But and with Milwaukee at two, and a lot of the reason I really wound up putting the Bucks at two, centered around Kobe. This is a generational ball player. He is the closest thing, like we've talked about, for me anyway, that I've seen that mirrored Michael Jordan. I mean, just almost every aspect of his game, his dedication to the game, his
Definitely,
his
definitely.
resolve to win, cutthroat mentality, everything you do to train away from the camera in the gym by yourself, that type of thing. And so
Yeah,
part of why I struggled with Milwaukee, it had nothing really to do with Giannis. It centered a little bit more around about Leonard, really, and part of that is because of where he's at currently with his age. And we know he's on the back end of his career. He's still a very good ball player. He made the All-Star game, had a couple of nights. I think it was 2 shots from the mid-court line that went in. But so I lingered on that just a little bit. But Kobe, he's such a buffer against weaknesses that even within your own team, he's such a compensator for your deficiencies. And I really think, and obviously Milwaukee's got a very, very talented ball club, but so I mentioned, I said, man, I can't drift away from Kobe. And then again, you put him with Giannis, and like we talked about previously, and like you mentioned, more of a power forward, but can step up and play the center position if he's required to, if he's asked to. That time, so he's multi-dimensional. We know what he can do from all aspects of the court. Pretty good defensive ball player. Probably a little lacking in leadership, but with this particular team, that would afford him the luxury of focusing more on what he does best within his own game, and let Kobe be the person who motivates, who challenges, who cheers, and drives you to be better game in and game out. And I think these guys, I think that could take Giannis and Leonard to the next level, even with Leonard's age right now. And I think it would still be something that they could work with and truly be successful with. Kobe's such a
I totally agree. I totally agree with you on that, because I love those three in Milwaukee. But see, that for me, the reason they're number 2 to me and they don't surpass the Nuggets, because it's just those three in Milwaukee right now that I really am. I do like Chris Middleton, but I think, like you were talking about, Chris Middleton's getting a little bit older too. Yeah. But the nice thing about this team is, if you really think about Kobe's career and stuff, he hasn't had a tremendous point guard in his career. The best one I would say, and he was pretty good, was Derek Fisher, probably, that he had playing with him. But to have that, it's kind of the same thing with like Shaq, right? That floor is gonna spread open so much for these three, for Lillard, Kobe, and Giannis. And man, the crazy part is any of those three can go off for 40 at any point in time. You know what I mean? And especially in this era, exactly. That's the thing, is Kobe playing in this era too would be insane. I mean, and the thing is 2 of them could go off for 40 in the same game. That's this crazy part about that, right? So,
but I would go so far as to say, and it wouldn't be night in and night out. And I know there's been some exaggerated statements about Jordan and Kobe playing in today's era of basketball, but obviously your 40 is very reasonable, I think, for an expectation, almost on a nightly basis. And I really believe it's feasible to say that guys like Jordan and Kobe, because of their drive, because of their just killer attitude, it's something that could drive these guys to average at times probably 50 nights a point. This is a league that really doesn't focus on defense anymore. Guys don't want to play defense. And if you don't want to play defense against guys like Kobe and against Jordan, it's really going to come back to bite you on a nightly basis. And these are the type of guys with the type of mentality that if you're going to present them with that weakness, then they're going to step up and they're going to take you out, because that's what they spend a majority of their game looking at doing. The game that they're involved in is to look for the weakness and absolutely exploit it. And that's what part of their games were, whether it was in game study, or obviously, again, just out on the court, looking for the weakness that you present to them. So, and that's what this league is about right now. They don't focus on defense. And so if you give that to these guys, they're going to burn you on it. So 50 points a night's not unreasonable to think. Not for the season, but definitely for stretches of time. They can average 50 points a game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with you on that. The other thing for me is he's like I was saying, I mean, obviously Kobe had Shaq, but he didn't have other good, great players always around him. He had Gasol, which was nice, but never a great point guard. Lillard's never had these great players around. He's got Giannis now. I mean, they're playing good right now. I mean, they're I wouldn't say that they're great right now. They're playing good ball right now. But having Giannis helps. And then if you put Kobe with him, the best player I think Lillard had other than Giannis now was C.J. McCollum at one point. But C.J.'s nothing close to what either one of these two are. And to be able to be on the same court with Kobe, be able to look for, I mean, his assists are going to go up like crazy, I think, for Dame. I think if you're looking at those three, obviously I think Dame's points are the ones that kind of get lowered out of the three, compared out of all three of them. Giannis obviously would keep doing what he's doing because he's the force inside. Obviously, I think Kobe would be the main guy. You have to. I mean, obviously, in any of the, I mean, man, I guess unless maybe Steph would be the main guy, but for the most part, all of these guys, the legends would probably be the main focuses for the team.
Yeah.
But no, but I mean, like I said, I agree with you on this one. I love this. I actually really like that Bucks team if that was ever to really happen, which obviously we know it can't. But if it was to happen, we could see it. I mean, that would actually be a fun team to watch, to be honest with you. And then obviously we're both the same with the number one. I mean, not just to talk about Jordan teaming up with Jokic. I mean, Jamal Murray has really shined as a ball player recently, and I don't think he gets a lot of the credit that he should. He should be an all-star, and he's not. I don't understand that. But you have to also start taking into effect, like we said, it shows 3, but you got to think about the whole team, and you have to also put in there, obviously, Aaron Gordon, who plays great defense, stuff like that, great around on the boards. MPJ, who, you know me, I'm not a huge fan of, but if he can find a way to get things going, I mean, he's just another person to add on there as far as points-wise. But, I mean, Jokic and Jordan together? You kidding me?
And being like the greatest.
That's insane.
That would be, I'd go so far as to say right now, if that had happened, that would be the greatest tandem, quite possibly in the history of basketball.
It'd have to be. That surpasses Kobe and Shaq, right?
Oh, yeah, heartbeat. Because you're talking about two guys in Jordan, and this is the thing I like about Jokic too, Bud. We haven't really talked about this part of it. And we've talked about his leadership. We talked about last week, I think it was. I talked about he's almost like a guy playing chess, and he positions his pieces where he needs them to be to help, accomplish what he's looking to accomplish every time up and down the court, so to speak. But I think, obviously, with Jordan, we know about his leadership ability, his drive to win, and if he's got to get in your face to make you better as a teammate, and he's not afraid to do it. I think Joker is more of a quiet leader, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
He works within the framework of the team, but he knows how to go about getting the win and helping, again, put people where he needs them to be to execute on that particular trip down the court. Jordan's more aggressive. But, it's still, and it took a while, like we know. If we go back and we look at all the stories and all the shows and all the TV programs that have talked about this, Jordan struggled to share, to share the wealth, so to speak, at times, going up and down the court, because he didn't trust any of his teammates to help do what needed to be done. And it was Phil Jackson that finally came along and said, look, if we're going to be successful here, we have to work together as a team. It can't be just an individual effort here. You've got to work to make this happen. And he did, and we saw what happened with that.
Yeah, and like I said, we're talking about some of the other guys, like I said, like Kobe never had a great point guard. He'd get that with Lillard and things like that. But think about Jordan's career. What center did he ever have that was great?
Cartwright.
You know what I mean? To put him with the center, and then not only are you giving him a great center, but you're giving him a player like Jokic who gives him the opportunity to open up the floor, get Jordan more open space to either hit his shot or get to the basket. They're going to be so worried about. And then Jamal, I mean, like I said, when I first started talking about this, Jamal Murray just does not get the credit that he deserves. He's a hell of a ball player right now. That pick and roll thing, or whatever they call it, with him and Jokic is insane right now, because he can just shoot that ball from the outside if he needs to. He can roll off and get inside for a bucket, or just dish it off to Jokic for a 3. I mean, there's so much things that they can do with that pick and roll that it's so crazy. And how great they run it is something insane to watch. Obviously, I know Stockton and Malone kind of had that pick and roll thing, but it's nothing like what Jamal and Jokic could do, because Malone couldn't hit the outside shot like Jokic can, or create that much of a shot inside. Malone was more of a that little 15-foot jumper, or getting inside for a layup, things like that. A strong, very, very strong player Malone was. But
also the thing with,
like I said,
the thing with a guy like Porter, Bud, and this is part of today's NBA mentality.
That's where I was going to go with that. With
nobody's
guys too.
Yeah, nobody's really challenged. Well, again, we're not in the huddle, so to speak. We're not in the practices, but I get the impression, even through his struggles, nobody really challenges him on the court. I guarantee you, if these are the performances that he's putting on the court, not on a nightly basis, but even periodically, MJ is the kind of guy that's going to pull you aside in practice or just pull you aside in conversation. And he's going to say, dude, you got to get this figured out because I'm not carrying your ass. No one's carrying your ass. You need to step up and perform like I expect you to, like we expect you to. So that kind of stuff doesn't fly with a guy with Jordan's mentality.
Oh, yeah.
But you made a great point too, that Jordan's never had that center. At any point in his career, he never did. But imagine, as you've talked about, but the freedom that would have given Jordan to literally roam the court, set his shot, pick what he wants to do, and he knows wherever he's at on the court that Jokic will find him. He already knows where he's at. It would be insane.
Oh, definitely.
I would have, in a heartbeat, I would say this would be the greatest tandem in the history of basketball. In the history of basketball. I really believe this.
Yeah. I'd have to agree. I definitely
generational
have to agree
talent that you put together. Yeah. It would be incredible to see that.
I'm with you on that. It definitely would be the greatest tandem that we'd ever see. It would be, I think, to be honest with you, Denver would be the funnest team to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, they would just be the funnest
because
team.
They still have.
And honestly, I think we've kind of brought it up about it, but in a 10-year span, I think they probably would win the most championships out of the four.
I agree with you completely. And like I talked about right when we started this, I was going to give a quick, overview of what I thought each team might look to hope to win for championships in a 10-year span. And again, this is incredibly suspect because we just don't know what other teams would have to offer up through trades and that type of thing. But if we just look at what we think could happen, health, comparable pieces around them. If you look at Shaq and Curry and Thompson out of a 10-game or a 10-year span, championships, I'd probably go so far as to say they could probably win 3. Maybe 3. I'd go so far as to say that. If I look at the Lakers with Davis and obviously LeBron and Bird, probably I could see them having the potential to win 4. And again, that's staying healthy, comparable pieces. I could see them winning 4. If we look at Kobe and the guys, with Giannis and Leonard, probably around that 4 mark. I think 5 might be a little bit much, but I could see 4. I think that's a good.
I think so too. Because here's the thing: is like you said, 10 years, and you have these other 3 teams in the league. I think they all get one.
Oh
regardless.
yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I think they all find a way to first definitely get one for sure. So, but I think in that 10-year span, yes, Denver's probably that 4 or 5 mark. Then maybe the Bucks and Kobe and them get a couple, so that's what and then maybe maybe the Golden State and Lakers both split one or something like that, obviously, but Denver's probably the more powerhouse team, and like I say, it's because you got to think about the overall team too. It's not a 3-on-3 tournament. That'd be a different story, right? If this is 3-on-3, for this one we're talking about the whole team itself. So you're talking about also coming out, Aaron Gordon out there. MPJ's out there, and then bench players, Christian Brown's great ball players, like that. I don't think the Lakers have a tremendous bench coming off. I mean, the Bucks are decent, Golden State decent, stuff like that. But none of them could has the power that Denver has right now, and obviously Denver being one of the powerhouse teams, anyways, in the league, just today without MJ, that already speaks enough for that too.
Yeah, I think the pieces, and you touched on that, but I think the pieces that would be around, Murray and Joker and Jordan are comparable pieces, but there's a familiarity there that they have with one another that's already been established if you drop Jordan into that group now. But the thing too is, again, I go back to Jordan's ability to motivate, to be better, and if you want to be afraid to fail with him, even better. And I think that carries itself, and because of that dynamic of possibly being intimidated enough by him to not want to fail, and obviously to work to be better. I literally think if this team stayed healthy over a 10-year span, and you tweaked it a couple pieces here and there, but for the most part the core was the same, I wouldn't think it's an exaggeration to say that over a 10-year span they could win 6 chips. I think they really could. Yeah. I really do think they could.
I'm not against. I mean, you got to think about it. Jordan did win 6 anyways in a 10-year span, pretty much. So, I mean, I could definitely see it. I definitely could, for sure. Well, no, actually, great. That was great, Mike. I loved talking about that. That was fun. I'm glad I was able to bring that up because those are 4 guys that we've watched play, and I know we didn't really talk a lot about Bird. Bird's a great ball player. A lot of people probably don't know a lot about Bird, things like that, but what a tremendous ball player he was, right?
Bird,
I mean, the guy could do everything. I mean, he literally could. He could rebound. He could assist. The guy could shoot. He could get, score inside. Great free throw shoot. I mean, tremendous ball player.
Bird would cut your heart out and hand it to you and say, watch me make this shot. He did not care. And that's...
I'll tell you what, LeBron would love to have somebody like Bird on his team. I'll tell you what, LeBron would just... I mean, LeBron would eat that. LeBron might average like 15 assists a game if he had a guy like Bird on his team.
Yeah, I think he would. And again, Bird's the kind of player that could facilitate, he could direct a lot of traffic, allowing LeBron to free up a little bit more like we're talking about, and then obviously with Davis, again, the freedom that Bird would allow for these 2 individuals to do a little bit more of what they already do very well, and just carry it to the next level. But Bird would absolutely cut your heart out. We talk about having a competitive attitude, and we talk about Jordan, and we talk about Kobe, and I'm glad you went back to Bird just for a few seconds, Bud, because I do think as the game progresses, I think some of these players are being lost in the mix. Because, the kids today, they don't want to go back and look at the film of these individuals. They just take what they see in front of them now. And so it's a detriment to them because they don't get a chance. They're not willing to go back and look at what was truly great prior to what they're familiar with as far as what basketball is right now, or football, or any of the sports, really. But if you went back and you looked at what Bird brought to the game and his mentality, and quite possibly one of the greatest trash talkers in the history of basketball. And we've all heard stories. I mean, literally being on the court and the guy guarding him in different scenarios and different situations, literally telling the guy defending him, this is where I'm gonna stop. I'll have the ball here, and I'm going to take the shot, and I'm going to make it. It's that type of confidence in himself. And I don't think you see very much of that today with any of the players. I mean, there's some great ball players, some absolutely terrific ball players, but guys like that with that type of killer, cut your throat out type mentality are just few and far between. And on this list are 3 of those individuals.
Definitely.
Great list, Bud. Great list. I'm glad you brought this up.
For sure. Yeah, no, it was fun. This one was fun.
And
to
real
talk
quick,
about.
just one last thing to say about that, but and we don't control this, folks, and we all, for anyone out there watching, and Anthony and I know this too, you see some of these lists, and a person can't put everybody on a list about who could be this, who could do that. I kind of looked at that list, and just for a split second, and maybe it was because of the Lakers, but I kind of thought, why isn't Magic Johnson on this list? I mean, that kind of thing. There's always that person. Not that it's good or bad, but there's that person that gets left off, and you're thinking, wow, how come that guy's not on the list, that type of thing.
Well, yeah, and I can see that too, but looking at the list too, I think obviously, I think they did.
It's a great list.
I mean, because they didn't put, the cool thing is they didn't put like Kobe back with the Lakers.
Exactly.
They made him a Buck. The same thing, Magic, where would you put him at? You couldn't put him a Laker again or something like that, and obviously, Magic's great. Don't get me wrong. I love Magic Johnson. I absolutely love him. But I think they picked the right 4 for that situation. It's
not possible. Yeah, because you've also got to look into the idea that if you had Magic and LeBron on the same team, are you not looking at potential ego issues?
Oh my God.
But no, it was.
Who's going to bring up the ball? Who's going to take it up one at a time, right?
But no, it's
well, no, great. That's a great one. This was fun to do. We love getting into these conversations about, the old schoolers and things like that, and what they would, obviously everybody talks about it too nowadays. But what would some of these old timers that were great ballers, great scorers, what would they do nowadays?
Yeah, and I really love
and that might be the reason why, Mike. I mean, think about it. All those 4 are like actual scores, or are they dominated, and things like that. And I'm not saying Magic didn't dominate. He did, but he also had Kareem, this and that. But those other guys to play in this era now would be kind of crazy to see, because we all know that they're great scorers, things like that. I mean, Magic wasn't a terrific scorer. I mean, he averaged 19 points for his career. But I like the
no, I
list.
love
I
the
think it was
list.
fine with it for sure. So,
Yeah.
so no, great job. That was a good one. Moving on, we're gonna take a break, but before we do head into break, I just kind of wanted to talk real quick about Chris Mortensen, who just recently passed away. Just kind of throw out, our condolences to him, to his family and stuff. Tremendous guy. I loved Chris Mortensen. I loved listening to him on ESPN. Such a great person. Very knowledgeable. Yeah, he obviously didn't make. We didn't talk about him. He didn't make any of our lists of like analysts and stuff that we talked about recently. But I definitely think there's some people out there that would put him on a list for sure.
Yeah, and I think, and to your point, yeah, but and I didn't really fully understand the connection that Adam Schefter had with Chris. Chris is the guy who brought Adam into to ESPN. It was through his recommendation, and he sort of, if in listening to Adam talk about it, he was a great mentor to Adam, and but I was familiar with Chris's work as a whole. Obviously, a lot of inside information on trades and the draft and things like that, and I thought he was always very informed. He brought a lot of detail to his reports, and just an overall good person. But when people pass in different professions, sometimes we're not really aware of just how much they've either contributed to the profession or the people they've influenced. And in listening to all the people that have spoken about Chris over this last week or so,
he's left a huge mark on
it's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. Maybe he knew the effect that he had across the media platform, as they say. But it's just great to see that he's acknowledged. As Anthony said, he'll be missed. Our condolences to his family. But just what an absolutely outstanding individual.
Definitely. Well, guys, like I said, we're going to take a break. All right, we are back, guys, and just so you guys know today, sorry if our stream is a little bit different for me, and I might cut out here every once in a while, but I have both my kids tonight. Usually the wife has both of them, and they usually do something or take off somewhere while we do this, but she was able to get some Nuggets tickets tonight to go with her sister, so got the kids tonight. I think so. Just every once in a while, I might just be peeking in on them, make sure everything's okay.
See, and
haven't destroyed the house or anything like that.
And I feel bad for Anthony because usually he just tries to keep me in line. So tonight he's dealing with kids.
So now I got 3 kids to deal with. My 2 and Mike.
Real quick, bud, we talk about her once in a while. Real quick shout out to Miss Caitlin Clark. I think today she became the first female player in Division I history to have 2 seasons of at least 1,000 points in 2 seasons.
Wow.
So shout out to Miss Caitlin. We know she's going pro next year. potentially, I believe, to the Indiana Fever. So the best of her, and obviously as they go forward in the tournament coming up. But just an accomplishment after accomplishment with this lady, and I'm excited to see where she goes.
Definitely. Well, congratulations to her on that for sure. So guys, you know what time it is. It's our top. Alright, so we got our top 10. We told you guys that we are going to be doing video games today. And like I said, we got some throwbacks for you guys. I can guarantee you we got some throwbacks for you guys. So we're just gonna go right and get right into this.
And real quick, folks, Bud talking about some of these games will be throwbacks, kind of like we do with our sports, retrospectives, so to speak. We go throwbacks. I do a lot of times, especially because I'm old. So I kind of refer back to anything old. It's like a comfort zone. But so my number 10, Bud, with video games, I went with Pac-Man. This is one of the first games that I can even recall. Now, folks, when I played, not to date myself per se, but when I played a lot of video games, this is pre, PlayStation and those type of things. So you were going to the arcade to play a lot of your video games. And one of the very first games I remember playing was Pac-Man. And I just, when we first became aware of video games and stuff like that, it was just crazy because they had arcades that you could go to. I don't know if they still have these, Bud, or not. I know they have places that have video, they have arcades, but these were strictly, there wasn't bowling attached to it. It was strictly an arcade. And I just remember seeing Pac-Man and watching this little dude just go around going waka, 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 and just eating the crap out of everything, right? And just, I think at one point he would eat like a certain pill or something like that. And everybody, all the little dudes going around trying to attack him. Because obviously that's part of what he was doing. He was trying to avoid them while you try to clear the board, so to speak, with all the little tracks. And so, but every once in a while he'd eat that little ball or whatever it was, and then all the little enemies would turn blue. And then he'd just go around, gobbling up everything in sight. And it was just one of the coolest games, kind of simplistic in its design and what it asked you to do as compared to what they do now. But I don't know, it was kind of cool. It was pretty addictive. But I thought it was a cool game.
Yeah, no, I for me, I enjoyed it. Obviously, my parents both loved Pac-Man. Learned the game from them. It is actually, it's fun. It's a fun game if you're just kind of, just kind of bored, want something to do, and one of those games where it's very, very easy to get addicted to right off the bat. Yes. You know what I mean? Very, very easy to get addicted to. But no, great job, Mike. Absolutely love that.
I may also say too that part of the whole aspect of the video games back then, folks, was just going into you were in a building where everybody was there sharing the same experience. Everybody had their own little clique, their own little video game. But, it was just kind of part of the experience. Hanging out with your buddies.
Oh, definitely.
Just having a good time. Seeing how bad you were at one game or how marginally good you were at another, or just how absolutely much you sucked at one, which unfortunately for me was basically all of them. But, hey, I got an E for effort. There's no A in effort. I did get an E for effort.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it any way we can, right? Well, sounds good. I love that.
Start us off at 10. For me, my number 10 is Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong Country. With the Super Nintendo, and the funny thing, I totally remember this game. So, I remember. I want to say it would have been probably like 5 or 6. My grandma, my mom's mom, she actually bought us for Christmas the Super Nintendo, and Donkey Kong Country was the first game that came along with it when we did this. And Donkey Kong is one of those games that was just so much fun to play. I mean, it's also one of those games where it could also really annoy the hell out of you too, because it's like
to the girl at the top, and right when you get to the top, he grabs her and
It's like and you know the amount of times you fall off of something or you don't break enough barrels or something. I don't know. There's so much to it, but it was fun.
Yeah.
That was like the first real console that we had that was ours. I mean, obviously my dad had some of his that we had played before. And for us that was the first one. The Super Nintendo was the first one that we ever had, and I'll always remember that, because she's the one that got us for us, and that was the first game that we had ever played it, and that was one of the first, like, I guess, strategic games to try to play, because I mean, even though it's not super strategic, because I mean at that point in time it was hard to make the games the way they are now, but it was fun.
I wasn't
it was
good enough to have a strategy, but
But no,
I think Donkey Kong is very, very underrated too. As far as the game, it's one game that if somebody was to give me a Super Nintendo, throw the game on, I would have no problems right now hooking it up to my TV and actually playing the game myself.
Classic video games. I don't think it'll ever go out of style. I really don't.
I don't think so.
And that's one thing about video games too is, and we know how popular they are still to this day. That they'll never go out of style. I don't think. Obviously, the graphics improve, but it's something that will be around forever. And I'm kind of curious to see what will happen as we go forward with with what they do. With immersing you in the game now with the headsets and stuff like that. It's crazy.
Definitely.
But even the
VR stuff,
the original games, the OG games, so to speak. I think they'll still have some popularity regardless of what decade or century we're in.
Definitely.
Number 9. So for me, folks, and I kind of touched on, I think this is a common theme with me, and I don't think it's probably a good thing, but I like games that emphasize violence, so to speak, fighting, and Tekken. I think it was pronounced Tekken, but I guess it could be Tekken, but I pronounced it Tekken. Maybe it was Tekken. But and for those of you that have that throwback mentality, so to speak, and enjoy those games, back in the day, so to speak, Tekken was a game that involved martial arts, different characters, male and female, elaborate costumes, but a lot of 3-round fighting, which I thought was very cool. But I liked the fluidity of the movements. I liked just the aggressiveness of the game. You could really get into some good tournaments with your buddies, and it just made for a good time. And I'm not sure that very many guys don't enjoy good martial arts, whether it's a movie or it's a video game, that type of thing. And I always gravitated towards those. Like I said, in my movies, the more violent, the better. With my video games, the more fighting type involvement there is. To me, you can't really top that too much. So at number 9 for me, Bud, was Tekken or Tekken. So folks, feel free to correct.
Yeah, I believe it. I don't know. I've heard it different ways. So I've called it Tekken myself. Yeah. I don't know what this. So somebody can let us know.
Yeah.
For sure. I'll get into it. Tekken did make my list.
Really?
I'm not gonna let you guys know when, but. It'll come up. It'll come up, don't you? Yeah, exactly. I won't let you guys know yet. That's the whole point of this, right? That's the whole point of us doing this. But no, absolutely love the game, Mike, for sure. And I'll kind of touch base a little bit more on what I thought about it when it gets to the point where I have it. But I love it. Love the game. I know we used to spend hours playing it over there at Dave and Buster's. Remember, we could go there, and that was one of the games we would jump up on there, and when we would play that game for as long as we could until we ran out of chips on our card.
Yeah, and you can obviously speak on this more than I can, but with the progression of the game console, so to speak. Obviously, when I started out with it, and I think. Do you remember? I think I gave you do you remember? Was it called a Dreamcast back in the day? I presented that to you.
Yes,
it was a Dreamcast.
It was a Dreamcast. Mm-hmm.
So that was I think the very first, that might have been the only game console I ever purchased. I think it was actually, and it was good. But you know why? I was never really good at video games, folks, but I enjoyed playing them. But Anthony excels at video games. He is immensely talented.
I don't know about excel.
Immensely talented. I've told him at times, depending on the game, he should have contemplated entering into tournaments and things like that, because this gentleman can absolutely, he's fantastic at video games. But the Dreamcast, I thought in part, I mentioned that because at that particular point in time, I think PlayStations were out, but I thought Dreamcast had a pretty good graphic quality.
Dreamcast wasn't too bad. Obviously made by Sega, and I used to have a Sega Genesis at one point too. But the Dreamcast definitely was the next top tier for
But
sure.
didn't last
It was
very long, though, did it?
Good. It did.
Yeah.
It did not.
I don't think it had that many games to select.
Well, see, Sega really started to go after the Genesis. Dreamcast was good, but then they kind of just fell apart there for some time. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, sorry. I told you guys I have my kids here with me, so. Yeah. So sorry, I was losing my train of thought there that we were talking about with it, but what were we talking about?
We were talking about the Sega Genesis.
Oh, that's right. So Sega Genesis, because then they brought out the Sega Saturn also,
Okay.
which did not last for very long either. But I never had a Saturn. I did not have a Sega Saturn. I do remember one of my cousins having the Sega Saturn and things like that too. But I never purchased one myself. But Sega did kind of start after the Genesis. They did start kind of going kind of on a kind of a downward spiral from there. But I thought the Dreamcast was actually really good.
That was pretty good too.
I was surprised that it didn't last.
But you've had every single PlayStation offering, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're up to 5. Is that right? Is that where they're at?
I have, yeah, and I do have a 5 now. Yeah.
Are they doing
the wife got it for me last year for my Christmas. Or for my birthday. So, I don't know. I mean, the 5 just came out. I mean, so I don't know how long they plan on moving that up to. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be something.
Folks,
there's got to be.
A real quick story that sort of involves Anthony, but it literally does actually. So he was still living, this is when he was a teenager, still at home with mom and dad. So I go over one weekend afternoon, and I go into the house, and Anthony's, he's watching TV, and so I'm talking to his mom and dad, and at the time there's a baseball game on the TV. And so I'm just catching it out of my eye, and I think Anthony was just sitting on the couch, so I couldn't really see I just thought he was talking to me and everything. And I'm watching this, and I started actually indirectly becoming invested in the baseball game that was going on the TV because it looked like it was a close game. And so I finally started looking at this a little bit closer, and for some reason I was like, why does this not look exactly, I mean, I wasn't sure if it was watching a video game or a real baseball game, right? So finally, I think Anthony did something because I realized at that point that he was involved in the game, and I was like, "Bud, is this a game?" And Anthony said, "Yeah, it's MLB." Folks, I have never in my life, at the time, I can't remember which edition this was, but I have I have never seen a game.
Oh, trust me, I plan on talking about it. I have MLB
great.
on my list for sure, and yeah, and we'll kind of get into some of this stuff, guy, about obviously like the difference between the graphics and stuff that we've seen. It is insane. I'm not gonna lie. The evolution that it's came from the graphics, starting with that Super Nintendo and moving its way up to the other consoles that I've had up until absolutely now with this PS5. It is insane. The graphics are insane. I mean, it's like Mike said, it's like you're watching the actual.
Yeah,
game.
and they actually, and we'll get back on track here, but and like Anthony said, we'll touch on this here shortly. But graphics-wise, it's incredible how realistic looks. Much more so. A lot of games now do this, but baseball is head and shoulders above everything. I mean, Anthony can speak on this more, insightfully than I can. And like you said, we will. But good grief, it's like sitting there watching an actual game. I cannot believe this. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. All right, let's see here. So moving on, I'm going to go into my number 9. Mike, you might not be familiar with this game for sure. If you are, definitely, let me know. But I have The Last of Us is my number 9. If anybody's played this game or has seen it, obviously there's a Last of Us Part 2 that has came out recently. I don't know if it's recent, but really good game. And the thing for me, so the one thing about me, guys, is I've always been known to be a sports guy. I'm a sports video game person. It's basketball, it's baseball, it's football, it's hockey. I mean, I've always just stuck to the sports. When I heard about this, The Last of Us, I had to try to play. I was never big on shooting games. I'm never big on trying to get, the zombie thing, trying to get through a game of, having to go through different storylines, all this crazy stuff that this game entitles. But man, does this game just draws you in. It brings you in. It makes you really want to play. And you are stuck on it. I mean, I remember putting this game on, and I was stuck for hours trying to get through this game. The storyline is incredibly good. Like I said, it's like that post-apocalypse type thing. You got the zombie stuff. You're trying to get, he finds this, this girl that he has to basically get her to, according to, I guess she's basically immune to being bitten by the zombies. So most of the time, if you get bitten by the zombies, obviously you're gonna turn into one. They won't want to. She's immune to it. Okay. So he's trying to get her to. I can't remember what state it is. It's based obviously out of here, where he's trying to get her, but he's trying to get her to basically the safe point is what I'll say, to get her there, and then they're basically want to try to run tests on her. They know about her. They want to run tests, figure out why is she immune to this? Why is she able to not transform into a zombie again? But obviously you're fighting through everything. You're trying to shoot through things. You're trying to fight through all kinds of different stuff. I mean, other people that play this, I know you guys are probably huge on this game. I am. I would love to play Last of Us 2 if I can find some time. Maybe sometime down the road I might be able to download it, get it, and play it. But this is definitely one game that I absolutely enjoyed playing. That was outside of the normal sports games for me, for sure.
And this is still an active game, but they're still coming out with new additions.
Yeah, like I said, Last of Us 2. I don't remember exactly when that came out. I know it's somewhat recent.
Okay.
It's within the last couple of years, if not just recently than that. But yeah, no, great game. If you have time, I mean, throw it on YouTube or something like that. People watch it streaming and stuff like that. It's actually something you could actually watch, maybe like on YouTube, of people streaming it and actually get involved in it and actually intrigued. It's like, I'm not playing it, but watching this is crazy. And I'll tell you what, Mike, even if you watch it, just watch the beginning of that game for like the first 10 minutes, and you'll already be like hooked probably in, because the beginning of that, you don't expect what actually happens in that game. So I'll just leave it at that.
So then real quick, Buzz, so when you play at any time, do you have a preference as to sort of playing with other people online, or do you prefer solo involvement, so to speak? I mean, because I know sometimes it can be frustrating if you get online and you're playing with teams, so to speak, because it's a team.
Yeah, no, I mean, so for me, the thing with this is I used to not like to be online. I never played online. I was never about being online. Obviously, at first, when I first started doing this, I didn't even know how to do anything online and things like that. I had to learn later on, and actually it was like way later on in life, because we're going to get into another game that I play a lot of, and it is everything of this game is online. I mean, you play with everybody online. You have to. Me saying that probably kind of gives it away to the people on there, because they're probably going to guess which one it is. But for me, I never used to like play online, not even any of the sports games. I've always just been the type to just be like, hey, I just want to play a season. I want to get my season in. I want to just do a franchise. Let me see how long I can go with my franchise, get drafted in. I never really liked doing the online stuff, because sometimes, if you don't have the right, especially back then, you have the right internet speed, things like that, it kind of screws up the gameplay. It's not as fun for me. Even nowadays, playing some of the sports games it goes back to a lot of sore losers when you play on there. If you're beating them, no, I'm serious.
But trust me,
you could be beating, and people will just cut the game off. They'll just quit it right there and then, and that gets annoying. After a while, it's like, just finish it out. Like, I'm not here to embarrass anybody. We're just playing the game. It's all for fun. It's a video game. We should all be having fun, enjoying it. Well, don't be just cutting the game out like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, real quick story, but I don't think I told you this or not. Maybe I did, but it's real quick. So I haven't done it in a while, but I like to get on every once in a while. And literally, you can play the computer with chess, but a lot of times it can either be easy to beat the computer, or sometimes, depending on the level you're at, it just literally wipes you off the board. No pun intended, but the computer just beats your backside. I got on one line a few times, and a lot of times I could get on there, I should say, and I could compete like you're talking about against somebody. You don't know who they are, male or female. Very complimentary. I've done this with golfing games online too once in a while, but with this particular game, very complimentary. I get on there one night with this person, and we start playing a game, and it starts out very cordial, compliments here and there. And as we progress, this person begins becoming almost belligerent, right? I can't believe you made that move, man. How bad are you? I mean, can you possibly suck anymore? And I was actually, I play a pretty good game of chess. I really do. But this person, I should say, was giving me a game, and I'm not responding. I don't go about playing like that. I'm not going to invest in that type of thing. But we keep going, and he keeps running their mouth. And finally, I had to chime in and say, hey, so, this is supposed to be fun, right? Can I ask real quick, how old are you? Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But the person responded with, well, not that's any of your business, but I'm 12 years old. Now, not just the fact that a 12-year-old is beating my ass, which that's fine. But I'm like, come on, dude, it's a game. Let's just play and have a good time with this. But this is supposedly
You ain't never seen me on chess. You ain't never seen me play chess.
Oh yeah,
I don't even. I wouldn't even know. I'd be done probably within like the first 3 or 4 moves. I have no clue.
But see, that's the point. You would never think that two people would get on a chess game and talk smack. And I'm like, golly. I was like, okay, whatever.
Nah, I get it. I mean, people are competitive. It's all about being competitive,
some
right?
decency. We can all talk smack and not make it, belligerent or offensive.
Maybe he's just that good.
Well, I don't know, but hopefully the next person, hopefully the person he played after me smoked his backside. That's all I got to say.
Right? No, definitely. All right. Well, we got to move on to our list. I believe we are up to number 8. Mike,
I don't know, Bud. You would have to tell me here. Now, I don't know how much this game has crossed over, so to speak, to the home video market. But I do know back in the day, folks, one of the more popular games at the arcade was NBA Jams. And when I was first introduced to this game, I wasn't very familiar with it. So I sort of had to just jump in. I just saw literally on the front of the game itself, NBA Jams. So the fact that it's basketball at the time, I thought, well, let me check it out and just kind of see, what this game is about. The gist of the game, basically, you have each team is represented, and I think this predates teams like the Orlando Magic and the Charlotte Hornets and that type of thing. But essentially, whatever teams comprised the NBA at that time, back in the 80s, they were all represented. But each team only had 2 players per team, but typically it was 2 of their better players. And the game literally is about the title, NBA Jams. It's just 2 players from one team going against 2 players from another team, and you're just back and forth. And it's every type of jam, dunk you can imagine a player performing that you would see on an actual NBA game. They were doing now in a video game. And you could really be pretty creative with. I mean, I wasn't always good with the dual buttons and trying to do this and do that, but I was okay. But it was pretty cool. The graphics were decent. The announcing of the game was pretty cool. The crowd in the background was suspect, but the overall gameplay was really outstanding. But I don't know how I can't say this though. I did see one night, I stopped by a friend's house and her son was playing the video game, and I hadn't played in a while. And he was pretty good. And so I watched him play one night, and he had beaten 2 people that night with some of his buddies. And I happened to jump in because I was just curious. I was watching again. And he said, hey, Mike, you want to play me? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm not really good, but I'll jump on and see what I can do. He had never lost, supposedly. He had played, I don't know, 50 or 60 times. He said he had never lost. So we started playing, and I beat him. He really got upset.
Nice.
Now, I don't even know what I was doing, but I managed to win the game. And he walked off. Again, back to that competitive thing. So, but I don't recall the game per se, but visually as well on the home system as I did the arcade. So, but I think still.
Well, they both were about the same. They both were
Yeah.
about the same. Either way with them, yeah. I had it. I believe I had NBA Jam on the Super Nintendo
Okay.
also. That's what I had it on. I mean, yeah, you hit everything correct.
Yeah, and it was great because it was nonstop. It was
I
go,
actually
go, go.
thought. Yeah, and you were talking about like the graphics and like even the crowd. I thought actually NBA Jam was actually pretty good with their crowd and the graphics and the things like that. For that time period, obviously, I thought it was great. I thought obviously if anybody's played like an NFL Blitz, it's kind of in that sense type of a game.
And I almost put Blitz on this list.
You can heat up. Yeah, you can heat up. I mean, where the ball would be on fire when you make so many shots from shooting into this. I mean, the height that you get up to try to block a shot, and you could set it to the other end of the court. No, it's a great game. It was fun. Obviously, it didn't make my list, but I remember playing it all the time. And like Mike said, a lot of this it was 2-on-2. Usually the best players on the team. I mean, I remember the Bulls had. I mean, at one point it was Scotty and Mike. I mean, that's all I played with. I played this game. That's all I did was just play with Scotty and Mike for sure.
Yeah.
In this one, but no, I love it, Mike. That's a great
real
one.
quick,
That's
you mentioned Blitz, and that was an NFL game, folks. Kind of like Jams, real quick, nonstop. Didn't make my list either, bud, but I gave that one honorable mention. But that was another great game. But overall, the graphics, everything with NBA Jams was phenomenal.
Definitely. So moving on to my number 8 is we just talked about this. It's Tekken. Tekken again for me. Like Mike said, I mean, I'm not going to go too in depth in it. We've already kind of talked about this. Like I said, martial arts game that it's 1v1 going up against each other, but absolutely fun to play. This game was just one of those games for me. Outside of it's still somewhat of sport because it is that martial arts things like that that people may consider sport, but you could play this game even though it's 1v1 things like that. I mean, you could play this game all day long and have fun. I remember my sister and we would definitely. I mean, it's summertime. I mean, we'd feel like playing. She'd tell me herself. She'd be like, "Yeah, let's jump on and play some Tekken." And we would play all the time. And like I said, I think we originally got hooked on the game though first at Dave and Buster's.
Really?
I think that was where we originally seen the game. Yeah, I believe so. That's where we first saw it because like I said, for me, I wasn't a big outside of sports, so I wouldn't have even looked at this game. I think being at Dave & Buster's, that's where we figured out this game more, and then I ended up purchasing it later on. Well, obviously my parents did at that time because I was still too young to have a job or anything to do like that. But no, absolutely love the game for sure. I feel like it needs to be on the list for me because I did spend plenty of hours playing that game, and Jet Li was my favorite guy to actually play on that one.
Yeah, and anytime you get to beat the crap out of somebody, I'm down.
Right?
In a video game, folks. In a video game, not in real life. In a video game, so no nasty letters or emails, please.
Definitely, for sure.
All right, folks. This one's probably, I don't know. First of all, how many people will remember this game? This is a real throwback game. I'm not sure how many people would have played this game. I think Anthony, he's familiar with the game. So there's a game called Cubert. And the overall gist of the game, you got this little munchkin dude, get these almost like a triangle of steps of blocks, those cubes, so to speak. Cubert, get it? Cubert. So the gist of the game was Cubert's going to be dropped. He lands on the top of the cube. He's got to work his way down to each cube and change the color, and then he's obviously got to make his way to complete. He's got to complete the triangle, and then obviously you advance to the next level. But along the way, he's got to avoid all these obstacles, little gremlins, kind of video gremlins, if you will, that are attempting to kill him, prevent him, from accomplishing his feat, so to speak. And Cubert had a couple of things he could do. One, there were these little discs that were to the side of the triangle, so to speak, and they were just hovering. So if necessary, if everything was looking pretty bleak, Cubert could jump on one of the little discs and it would levitate him back up to the top, and he could start again. So it's like one of his safe outs, so to speak. But one of the greatest things I thought about Cubert and it was actually it was on the person playing with him. So what would happen is if you got to the edge of the triangle with Cubert and you made the wrong move, and around the triangle itself is nothing but pitch black. Basically, you're in space is how it's presented. So if you happen to make the mistake of launching Cubert off the edge of the platform into some distant black hole, you hear Cubert cussing you out, going and just making these, and there's these little expletives like things that would indicate cussing. So you're getting cussed out from Cubert because you took him and launched him off the edge. So essentially you killed the dude. So he get kind of irritated with you and cuss you out. And I thought that was kind of cool. But the game is as you went along. So if you advance to the next level, at some point you start going down these cubes, and the first, level 1, you had to change it to 1 time. Then next time you had to change it twice. So obviously it becomes progressively difficult. But just a good game.
Yeah.
And I just liked how it was presented. And I like getting cussed out by a video game.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, Mike. I actually have not ever played this game, and I did not know the game until when you brought it up. I have not played this game. I don't even know if I've actually heard of it.
Yeah, it's kind of an obscure game
about it. So, yeah,
but I was actually decent. This is one of the few games I was decent at, folks.
Well, if you think about it, though, that was kind of the games then, right? That was the gist of each game at that point in time, trying to do the strategic games, things like that. But no, I mean, to be honest with you, kind of looking at it and kind of just looking over the games, I think it would be something that I would at least give a try to and see what I could do with it. Like I said, I'm not very good outside of sports most of the time anyway. But I never have a problem with at least giving it a try.
But
sure.
I thought Cubert was one of those games, kind of like a Pac-Man. Kids can play it. It doesn't ask you to be incredibly detailed and manipulate a lot of things. It's just very, it tells you what they want you to do right there, and it's kind of self-explanatory. So I think it's the kind of game kids can also enjoy too.
Definitely. Well, sounds good, Mike. I like it. Definitely like it. Like I said, guys, just so you know, I mean, this is our list of what we prefer and we love. I mean, this isn't anything that, that we're putting in order of like greatest top 10 games ever of all time. Of course, I mean, this is just games that we've played, that we enjoy, that we obviously played tons of growing up, things like that. So just to keep in mind with
and just
that.
FYI, folks, the majority of the games on my list are the games I didn't absolutely suck at.
Oh, let's see here. So moving on to me here. The next one I have here, which would be this would be number 7, I believe, right? We are on. For me, it is Knockout Kings. And this Knockout Kings was really, really fun for me. It was one of the boxing games that I really enjoyed. And it's actually one of the only boxing games I ever really played at all. I never really got into any other ones. I know there's still some out there, things like that, but Knockout Kings was one of the most fun. I mean, you were able to play with so many different legends. That's the one thing, too, that really gets me with video games is if I'm able to play with legends, or if I'm able to play with legendary teams of some sort, or just legends itself, that really puts it high on my list, or puts it up there for me to want to be able to play the game. And because I always feel like, and in Knockout Kings, I mean, it was nice. You could play with, you could box with Muhammad, I mean, Evander. I mean, you can go through a list of boxers that you could play with on this game and have fun with it. I mean, and Knockout Kings was great. It wasn't like these games now where you have to like have so many different combinations and you got to move this stick and that stick, this right stick, and have to hit this off. It was straightforward, right? You got your jabs, your uppercut, and it was just back and forth. It was just straight boxing, and it was fun to play. I believe it was on the PS2. No, it may have been PS1. I think PS1 or 2 is what it was at. But I thought the graphics were good. Graphics at that point in time, the graphics were great. Like I said, I thought it was easy to maneuver with that game and stuff like that, and it was fun to do like career modes and do all that stuff with it too.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with the game obviously through watching you play it and that type of thing. And I actually did play it a couple times myself. one of those games I'm not very good at. But and there were different boxing games. They even had some at the arcades. And for the life of me, I can't recall what it was called. But there was one you could literally stand on the platform, and really all you saw on the screen was like what would be your boxing gloves as you're boxing against your opponent. And I wish I could recall the name of that, folks. If anybody out there remembers this particular arcade game,
is it Rock'em Sock'em Robots?
No, but you know what? I played that game. I sucked at that too. You know.
You know what? I think I know what you're talking about. What is that game?
But you folks, you just see your gloves on the screen, right? And you're just boxing with those, and you can obviously see your opponent completely. And I wish I could recall it. And obviously I wasn't very good at it, but it was sort of like that. You're sort of physically involved in the game, and so I thought that was kind of a twist on things. But it obviously seeing Knockout Kings and watching you play it, Bud, I mean, graphics-wise, very good game. And you can really get into it. And again, like you talked about, you get to box against some legendary boxers, and that's another cool aspect of it. That's a good selection, Bud.
Definitely. Well, moving on. What do you got? We are to number 6 now.
So I would believe that this is a game. I know obviously Anthony and I have one that we've already shared, the same with Tekken. So I do have Madden on there, folks. Now, as far as being proficient with this game, that's a joke. My best option, and I experienced more success with it on like my home computer than I ever did, physically playing the game, because I would go into what was coaching mode, and so I'm letting the coaches do it for me, or I'm just making those decisions. I'm not executing the plays. So if it didn't work, it's their fault. It's not mine. But Madden, as we all know, regardless of the edition, and it's been around now since I think 1923, something like that. I think it predates Atari and Ping Pong and all those other games. Madden's been around forever, but and I think it's up to edition 423, something like that. But what a great game! Any football fan is probably, if they haven't played it, they've heard of it, or they've seen a video clip of it. And I still think it's probably the best video game that represents football. And there's been several that have come out over the years. But this is one of the games I talked about, folks, with Anthony. You talk about a game that this gentleman is very good at. Madden is one of those games. So for me, not being able to play the game very well, I could sit down and watch my godson play it. And Anthony would just a really good football mind and video game ability with what he was doing with that. But it's a great game, great graphics. From what I hear, and I know Anthony can speak on this a little bit more, I guess they don't seem to try to improve the game as much as they probably could have over the last few years, which is unfortunate because of its reputation, its history for being innovative and forward moving. But you can't talk video games, I don't think, regardless of what your interest is. I just think Madden has to be a part of somebody's top 10 list at some point, whether it's 10 or 1 or 5.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And obviously, yeah, you are correct, Mike. This will be on my list. I'll kind of go into a little more when it hits there for me, for sure, because there is a few things I would like to talk about with the Madden, and some of the stuff I wish they would maybe try to do if they could, or maybe trying to fix and stuff like that. But no, I absolutely love it. I agree. It needs to be on the list for sure, for me and for you. I mean, we spent. You said yourself you spent plenty of time playing the game, and me, I couldn't tell you how many hours I've spent. Especially back in the day of doing. I mean, I would get through seasons, in the summertime of just playing just straight through and stuff like that. So love it, love the pick, Mike. I absolutely love it. So moving on, this Mike's actually I'm kind of interested, Mike, to talk about my next one, because obviously we talked about, I've talked to you about your list. I know what you got on here, and I was a little surprised that you didn't put this on your list. Okay, and the reason I say that is because it is 4th and Inches. Okay, and now let me explain something to you guys. Okay, right? 4th and Inches was played on what was called a Commodore 64, which is basically looks like a computer, is what it is. Okay, so it's a computer where it was basically like a floppy disk that you would throw inside of this. It was a huge ass floppy disk, I'm gonna tell you that much. Put it in, started up the game, and it was a football game. It was a 4th and inches, and it was a football game with nothing but little blips-looking players that you would just try to play with. Now, the funny thing is, and the reason I say this, guys, and we're going to try to make sure that we don't go crazy about a bunch of stories and things like that, because we could sit here and talk about this all night, because, heck, my dad, Mike, and myself have talked about this before, but Mike and my dad actually used to play full seasons with a couple other friends and stuff. I'm talking full seasons, people. They would take they would pick teams who they'd want, and they would play the full season out, go into the playoffs, go into Super Bowls, and they would do this and stay up till 2, 3 o'clock at night on work nights, playing their seasons out, switching off from house to house. Some nights it'd be at my dad's house, it'd be at their friend Chris's house or whatever. Tons of stories, guys. Like I said, we won't get too crazy in it, but I am actually surprised that Mike does not have this on his list. With all the nights he spent doing this, all the craziness. And the funny thing about this game, too, guys, is you would think, that playing this game, that most of the players, you're like you talk about Madden now. You have your superstar players, and they have these attributes, and your typical, like back then it would be like your typical like Emmitt Smith would probably be great, and like now you'd have Tyreek Hill or something. It wasn't like that in this game, folks. I mean, sometimes, yes, like Barry Sanders was very good in this game, but like, what was it? Eric Metcalf was one of the top players. David Meggett was a tremendous player on this game. So that just kind of tells you, obviously, how far back this game goes, how much different graphics were what you were playing on.
Yeah.
But it was actually a fun game to play still, regardless.
Yeah, folks. Anthony, see, I view this more as not necessarily just a video game. I view this as a life experience. We, as Anthony mentioned, we invested, a collective group of us. I think it was 5 of us at various points in time. And I say 5 grown men, but now if you spoke to our spouses or our girlfriends at the time, they would probably say, no, this doesn't qualify as an experience that men engage in. This was, 5 kids acting like, juvenile delinquents. We did. We played full seasons. Each person would divvy up. You'd be assigned 5 or 6 teams, depending on the number of people that we had to invest their time in an entire season. And our seasons, folks, these could sometimes. Do you know? This is the interesting part of this, real quick. So our very first season doing this, and the season, I'm telling you, took about 8 months to complete. We extended well beyond the actual season that had just completed. I mean, we're 9 months into this, whatever. The funny thing with the first season was that we got to the Super Bowl, and ironically, I was fortunate enough to partake in the Super Bowl along with this other gentleman. We had to put the Super Bowl on hold because the gentleman that is my co-host was going to be born. So we had to delay the championship, the Super Bowl, for the arrival of this gentleman that's my esteemed co-host here. But we did complete it. I was fortunate enough to win the first championship. His dad, who to this day, now we played 2 full seasons. We attempted to invest in a third, but reality, age, attempting to maintain jobs and marriages and girlfriends sort of got in the way. So we had to apply some common sense. So we did complete 2 seasons. His dad, Anthony's dad, and I hold to this day, was the absolute best player in that entire league. And there were some good players. And for myself, personally, I maybe in the top 4, but his dad was absolutely the best of any of us. But you had, I think the speeds were quick, fast, and speed or something like that. And we're talking very choppy figures, blips on a screen, but we could literally, we were able to invest, and aside from the game itself, it was just great memories with a group of guys that just share the same interest and passion for football and competitiveness.
The other thing that was really cool for me, because this is kind of where I started the whole video game thing, right? And it's funny because I literally brought this up to the wife not this recently because and the funny because it's funny because obviously I have my son and my daughter and they are both. I mean, my son is absolutely into video games. I mean, 100%. But just recently they both were on the game together, playing together, and it's like. No. But I'm just saying playing PlayStation in general and watching them together play together, and that was me and my sister. I mean, and it was just the same thing. It's just you bring back those memories, and that's what Fourth and Inches did. Is that's where it started for us. I mean, that was the first thing we ever played, other than my dad used to have it, and he used to have like the Pong.
Oh no, I was going to talk on this just for a brief period. It's insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll get into it, but he had the Pong, and that was what
right
he started off with, too. Things like that, too. So it's fun to still see that we're still, pushing that along. And video games, I think unless you're really, not keeping an eye on your kid, or you're just letting them just kind of run wild with the things like that. But it's a nice getaway for everybody, right? It's a nice getaway for the kid. I mean, it's something fun for them to do. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want... kids, on TV all the time or on the games, and I get that 100%. We are the same way with my kids. We try to, monitor how much as they're on, but at the same time, it's also just that fun little getaway time too. It's nice to just be able to play a game, just enjoy it, sit back and just have some fun, right? That's what video games are meant for.
Yeah, and also, and I know that you and the family, when you're still living with your mom and dad, I think at one point the family, I believe everybody invested in the Wii.
Everybody loved the Wii.
And like you mentioned, but families can come together and they can play different video games and things like that. It's just an advanced version of a board game, except now it's a video interactive.
Yeah.
But the Wii game I thought was pretty spectacular in what it offered too, because you could literally, folks, if you played this game, you could bowl, you could play golf. I mean, it was all kinds of things. It was a cool thing for the family to sit down to do and just have a good time. I mean, that's phenomenal. So great point on the family thing too, bud.
Definitely. Well, sounds good. Well, we're getting into the top 5 now, Mike. What you got here?
Okay, folks. So I mentioned Pac-Man is one of the very first games I ever, one of the very first video games I was introduced to. This game is still a fan favorite of mine, so to speak, as they say. It's the very, very first video game I ever experienced at an arcade, and it was called Space Invaders. And the very first time I saw this, we were going on a trip, my dad and I, and we stopped into one of the lounges to get a couple of Cokes or something like that. And they had these video games along the wall. And I saw this game, it said Space Invaders. And like I said, I was new to a lot of video games, but I looked at it and we had a little bit of time before our flight. So I asked my dad, hey, could I, drop a couple quarters in there? I think it was 25 cents. So again, that shows you how dated it is. But my dad said, yeah, go ahead. So I dropped a quarter in the machine, and I'll tell you what, folks, it just it was a mind-numbing experience for me. Space Invaders, I think we're all fairly familiar with the gist of it. You've got your little gun that rotates back and forth at the bottom of the screen. You've got your little blocks right there to sort of defend against the aliens as they're coming down, and you just rotate back and forth, and you're trying to eliminate them before they come all the way down. And it was just it's almost intimidating. I think I developed indirect stress because as they get closer, the boom, 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 boom. And by the time it reaches that high pitch, rapid fire, I'm stressed out and just trying not to die. But it was a very simplistic game, but it was just something that was addictive to me. And again, I like blowing stuff up and killing things, and so that was right up my alley. Even at that age, that's probably why my dad probably needed to put me into therapy. But just a very good game. That's my very first video game, so that's always going to have a special place right here in the chest. And I haven't played it recently, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I got to play one somewhere, and that brought back a lot of great memories.
Oh yeah, Space Invaders is fun. I mean, it's one of those games where I could never really get the gist of it. I mean, to be good myself. So it was just like hold down the shoot button and just hope for the best. Keep moving back and forth. That's kind of what it was, right? But the cool thing is I remember playing more Space Invaders because I didn't at my time I didn't go to like arcades and stuff like how you guys had them, this and that. But I do remember at one time, I think it was the PS2. Could be one. I could be wrong. It might be both still. And I think they still do this regardless. But Atari had came out with basically it was called like the old like basically Atari's.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
And you can get those games, and it would have the Pac-Man and Space Invaders and all these other ones too. And so that was kind of cool because it kind of like I said, it brought the family even closer because when I bought that at one time. Of course, my mom, my dad, they both went, we want to try to play. Let's see what we can do. And this now, you guys aren't gonna beat us because these are our games now. We're not playing your guys' game. And they were absolutely right. My mom and dad were great at their games that they used to play. I mean, we would have so much great competition, and it would be fun to do. But it was fun that they brought those back because it was able to kind of show us exactly what the games were like. You know what I mean? And most people would look at the games now like a Space Invaders, like you said, or and some of these other ones, and be like, what the heck is this? Like, this is one of the stupidest games ever compared to what we're playing right now or something like that. Like I bring up a game like The Last of Us or something. You put those two games side by side and you're like, what are we doing here? I mean, of course I'm going to play Last of Us compared to this one. But that was the point, right? Those were the games before that brought joy to everybody that was playing video games.
That's like me showing a young person today a rotary phone, and they're holding their cell phone, and they're like, what the F is this? But it was very simplistic. It wasn't very complicated. You didn't have to really engage in a lot of strategy. For the most part. For me, I was very novice because, again, I wasn't great at it, but I was okay. But just good memories. And one of my all-time favorites. I love Space Invaders.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. All right, so moving on to me. My number 5, we have talked about this. It's going to be Madden. Madden for me is going to be top 5. To be honest with you guys, Madden probably like 5 to 7 years ago would be probably 1 or 2 for sure. But like I was saying earlier when we were talking about this game, there's a lot of stuff that just, for me, I wish they would do more to it. For me, I just feel like Madden right now, all they basically do is tweak a little bit of the graphics and basically just upgrade the rosters, and boom, there's your next Madden, right? And that's the thing for me. I wish, because like there's other games that I have on my list that I kind of get in depth more about this, but I wish Madden would come out with like a really, really good story mode, for like just like a one-player story mode like that 2K has had, or like MLB The Show, where you could be, you could be your own player. Madden has never been that type of a game where they've had a very, very good story mode. Now, that's not saying that the game is terrible, because I will say, graphics-wise, tremendous. Being able to play the game, every single game has its hiccups every once in a while. There's sometimes I'll play the game and I'll realize, man, this year it's a lot easier to throw, harder to run. Or, the next year comes out way easier to run, harder to throw. It obviously changes up each year, this and that, but obviously graphics are terrific. The way that they keep, the rosters loaded as long, each time, absolutely love that about it. But Madden's definitely got to be a top 5 for me. Like I said before, guys, it's a game that I've spent hours and hours and hours playing. I absolutely love it. The main thing, and this is another thing why Madden's gone down, unless you're playing Ultimate Team, you cannot play with Legends, or you can't play with the Legendary Team. Now you can play with the throwback jerseys, which is cool. I like that part, but I would love to be able to, because at one point in time Madden was allowing that to happen. There, you were able to, way back in the day, you could play with an old team and do this and that. And I think they only did that for a short period of time. If I'm not mistaken, somebody let me know in the chat if I'm wrong, but I think it only lasted for maybe a couple of years that they did that. I may be wrong on that. I may be wrong that it was even Madden that did that. I played so many other different sports games, but I would like to be able to say, like, a Madden nowadays, why can't I go back and play with the 98 Broncos? You know what I mean? Just play one game with them, or play a season with them. Why can't I go and play with with the 72 Dolphins and see if I could go undefeated or something like that? I think it'd be cool. I get it. I get the whole point as to why. I mean, these video games now, it's about the money. They want everybody to spend more. You got to go and buy the Ultimate Team. Go buy the packs and try to get your players out of there. I get it. It's money now. That's what we're into now. But just give me something that I could do with the old school where I don't have to sit there for hours at a time, because like I said, right now, like back in the day, yes, guys, I could do it. I could easily play for hours and hours, but kids, work, this, that. I can't sit here and grind the Ultimate Team for hours on a time and to try to get the players that I want. And I also am not going to spend hundreds of dollars to get these packs either. I'm sorry, but I'm just not doing it either. But absolutely has to be in the top 5 for me. I still play it to this day. My son loves playing it. I mean, he comes up to me too. He's like, Dad, let's play football. I'm like, I'm down. I'm down for it. I mean, I have no problems with it. I love playing it. I'm mostly happy with just doing like my franchises and seasons. I don't do too much online. Every once in a while I may throw it on this and that, but absolutely love Madden. It's great. It has to be on the list, like Mike said.
I'm not gonna I won't add anything to what you just mentioned, Bud, because that was perfectly stated. The only thing I will say, and I never told you this story, so I don't know how many people I know Anthony is. I don't know how many people are familiar with the Toys R Us toy stores. I don't know how many they still have, or if they still have any.
Oh, I think Toys R Us is gone.
Okay, so back in the day, folks, if you don't recall, there was a toy store called Toys R Us. It is very noticeable because they always had the R in Toys R Us. It was backwards. I don't know why. Maybe dyslexia. I don't know. But that was part of what was the quirkiness of the store. But anyway, like I said, I don't think I ever told Anthony the story. So sometimes in my off time from work or stuff like that, if nothing was going on, I would go into a Toys R Us. And there was one in particular, and they had sometimes video games set up for display where you could just go and you could sample the games.
Oh, yeah.
So this one particular Toys R Us, they had Madden on as, I think, if not the only selection, one of 2 or 3 that you could sample, and you could play a full game. You really could. So I'd go in this Toys R Us, but I'd go in sometimes downtime, not having to work, stuff like that. I go into this Toys R Us and I go right to the video game, and I sit there for hours. I'll stand there for hours.
Just playing.
I would stand there for a couple of hours playing a video or an entire game or a couple of games, and then sometimes the employees might come by and they give you that look like, okay, you do know this is just for sampling, right? And I'm sampling. I need the extended sample. But it was kind of bad. I mean, because and sometimes this could be 2 or 3 nights in a row. I would go right.
Oh my God.
And I was just like, I can't believe these people are kicking me out of this store, because some of the employees were the same, and I just thought, man, I'm gonna get kicked out. But so I didn't have to buy the game. Man. I could sample the game, and I could remind myself of just how much I suck at the game. But it was pretty cool to be able to go in there and just play for free.
Yeah, no, I remember that, and I think they still kind of. I don't know if they still do that anymore. Like the Walmarts or anything like that, maybe they still might do it, but
I know
they might take. Actually, you know what? You might be the reason why they don't do it.
Never what could be, because I know people look at video cameras and they're like, see, it's that one dude again. I know real quick that Target. I'm sorry, I hope we don't get sued, but that particular franchise, they used to let you go into their audio and TV departments. They had video games that you could sample. Yeah. And eventually, they quit doing that, and I don't know. I mean, that's probably part of it, because people were just playing them, and that was one of them.
It could be.
Hey,
very
but
well
they no
could
longer
be.
do that.
Who knows? Great job with that. Let's see. So we got up to.
All right, folks. So for my number 4 is a game called Dig Dug. Pretty simple format. As to what you needed to do to win, succeed, advance to the next level. You got this little dude who looks kind of like a Bizarro Smurf. If I recall correctly, he looked like a little blue guy. I think he had a little white hat, something like that. But anyway, but the whole purpose of the game was, obviously, there's these little tunnels on the screen. He's underground, and so he's got these little tunnels that these little dragons are in. And eventually, if he doesn't get into the tunnel and destroy the dragon, they start working their way to the top. So part of the purpose of Dig Dug was to get into the tunnels, eliminate the dragons, and there are fire-breathing dragons. And if you wipe out all the dragons, obviously you go back to the top. When you get back to the top above ground, then you advance to the next level. The coolest aspect of this game, and I wish they had tweaked it just a little bit, I think that would have improved it visually for me, is the whole purpose of when Dig Dug, would approach one of the dragons, and you had to be careful because he could get burnt and die, blah, blah, blah. But his whole technique was you approach, he had like this little stream of lightning that seemed to emanate from his body, and he'd shoot it at the dragon. Dragon would literally inflate to the point that he explodes. So I really thought, looking back, they could have enhanced this a little bit with a little bit of blood, maybe some guts, that type of thing. Now, again, this is a dysfunction that I'm talking from. But I thought it was cool that you could literally inflate the dragons until they just literally explode. But like I said, if you could have tweaked it with a little bit of blood, just some body parts laying on the ground, I thought that would have been kind of cool. But the game itself was great. It's one of my all-time favorites. I was pretty good at it. One of the very few games I can lay claim to being at least marginally decent. But just a cool game, yeah. Dig Dug.
No, it was a pretty cool game. I didn't play a lot of it. I mean, every once in a while I might throw it on or something. Like I said, I had that Atari one. There might have been a game I might have just tried out, this and that. Wasn't something I put hours into, but it was a pretty cool game. Kind of definitely different. But obviously I wasn't looking for any kind of like blood or gore like you were at that point in time. But but no, good one for sure, Mike. Hey, like I said, guys. We talked about. I mean, there's gonna be some old ones on here. So I mean, hey, if there's a way you guys can get on and play some of these games, I definitely would recommend it for sure on that.
Kids, adults of all ages, never invest in Mike's approach to entertainment. I mean, seriously, it's disturbed, but it works.
All right. Well, moving on now for me, for number 4 for me is going to be NBA 2K. NBA has actually moved up a lot for me. Like I said, a little bit lower than what it could be, only because I felt like this last one that came out with recently didn't have a great story mode. 2K has always been known for tremendous story modes. Okay, and that's one thing that I've always strived with the 2Ks to watch out is the story modes, how good they are. Basketball has always been one of the great ones. I believe it was 2K 22 or 21 that had an absolutely tremendous story mode. I mean, you started off like in overseas playing in China, and you make your way over, getting through the draft. I mean, and you go through like all these crazy scenes where you're like getting brought up, and you got a friend of yours that's like doesn't make the best decisions all the time, and even gets into some trouble, and you got to try to make the right decisions on what to do and this and that. Like, I'm not kidding. It was one of the best ones I've seen ever. But 2K is also not just the story mode itself, the gameplay. Like I said, guys, all video games we all know have hiccups, this and that. I mean, sometimes on some of the 2Ks, the shooting might be a little bit easier, but the layups might be a little more tougher, right? Or the next year, the layups and the inside, scoring inside's way easier, and the shooting's harder. So, I mean, it varies throughout. I mean, you just obviously adapt to the game and get better with it as you do it, and get better as you play more and more. But also in 2K, the one thing I like is, and Mike's done this with my dad. We've actually had a fun thing with it where you could play with all kinds of legends on this game, and we've done a thing where we've thrown them all into like a draft, and we just draft all legends, all basketball players, things like that. And I'm talking like you can play with Kareem, you can play with Wilt, you can play with Michael, LeBron, whoever. And we've done things where, we put us three into the draft, we pick our own teams, and we play the season out, see how we've done. Once again, I think when we did that one, I think my dad kicked our ass in that one too. Like he always does. He finds a way. Like Mike said, he always finds a way to do this. I don't know how he does it, but he does. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I love. I love things where I can go back, because, like I said, guys, we are the old heads, right? We love playing with the old school. I mean, I'm not as into the newer area, and like you heard in our past episodes about how we actually feel about the NBA now and things like that. But to be able to play the game itself, play with the legends, have fun with that, absolutely love it. Absolutely love when they do the story mode. The last two ones too that I'm going to talk about real quick that I loved is obviously 2K23 was the Jordan one, and you can do the Jordan scenes where you can do certain games for him that, you know, it was Jordan moments. You played with him in college when he hit the shot against Georgetown to move all the way up to making the shot against Utah in the 98 final. You know, you do all these moments with him. 24 is the Mamba moment. So you're doing I'm actually working on the Mamba moments now. I think these two are the best ones because of that. Obviously, you know how big of a Jordan fan I am. Mike also, and even Kobe's too. So absolutely love these last two that have came out.
Yeah, and real quick, touching on those, but that's a great selection. And I've seen you play that. I've experienced it a couple times myself, obviously. But and I don't put those on the list for the simple fact. Now, graphically, games like NBA 2K and Madden, MLB. And a real quick shout out to years ago. And Anthony doesn't. I don't think he involves himself as much in the hockey games as he used to. But I know back when he was
not as much, not as much as.
But back when he was still living, you know, at home, when he was, you know, 16, 17, that type of thing, he did invest in some of the hockey games, and they were so beautiful. They were so graphically beautiful, folks. That I didn't play the game, but I wanted to watch. So Anthony would play, and I would just watch, and it was incredible how graphically beautiful the hockey games were. The ice was just insanely cool to look at. So, absolutely. But because of my struggles with those games not being very good, you know, I didn't put them on my list. But from an aesthetic, games like NBA 2K and again Madden and MLB are just phenomenal video games.
Definitely for sure. All right, so we are into our top three now, Mike. What's your?
And again, folks, probably not a lot of people familiar with. Anthony may have played this game, may not have. It's a game, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. If not, feel free to obviously to offer up a correction in the comments. But I think it was called Galaga, but I think that's how it was pronounced. The gist of this game, folks, pretty simplistic. You got a little spaceship at the bottom of the screen. A spaceship, basically. And what's coming at you are essentially what equates to aliens, and they're just literally flying over the place. They're coming in from just different directions. And obviously looking to take you out. But what I really thought was exceptionally cool about this game was the firing mechanism of the button itself. You know, sometimes with the games at arcades, you know, the buttons I didn't feel were always fluid. They didn't respond like they should, or maybe the video game, it just didn't correlate quite like I thought it could have. But with Galaga, you know, with the spaceship, when you needed fire, and there was a strategy to this. If you figured it out eventually, you would know that the aliens were going to come in a row at certain angles on the video screen, so you could begin to understand where to position your ship for better firing accuracy and that type of thing. So you could do a lot of damage. I actually became pretty proficient with this game, but the coolest aspect of this game was if you reached a certain point, you had obviously reserve ships to the side. You know, you've always got the one you start with, and then you probably got two more that you can go to. And if you use those and lose, then the game's over. But at some point during this game, you could unite two of the spaceships, and then you have double the firepower. Boy, you could take out everything and anything with these two spaceships. And if you could figure it out, the only thing is, though, with the two ships together, now you are a wider target, so you had to be really good to avoid getting knocked out, which I typically want to get knocked out pretty quick. But, man, that was cool. Double the firepower, double the damage, double the explosions, and basically double the fun. Just an absolutely fantastic game. And I think if anybody gets a chance to play it, again, folks, it's called Galaga. And one of those great throwback games that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, but just a great game. And I hope that people get a chance to sample it. Maybe Bud actually had played it at one point, I'm not sure.
You know what? And that, I was just going to kind of chime in on that. I have not played this game before. I have heard of it, but I have not played it before. So, yeah, kind of hearing what you were talking about it. I mean, it sounds like your typical game from back then.
Yeah.
It was real fun to play. Obviously, it can keep you going. I mean, you can just kind of keep going into the next level, right? You got to keep pushing to the next level. And that's what keeps you intrigued, right? It's like, man, You know, and that was the fun part about that. You know, now when you're playing these sports games, it's like who can I destroy? Who can I put the most points? But it was like who can get to this level?
Yep.
Like, and then your friend would be like, oh man, I got to level 20. And you're like, oh, what? What do you mean you got to level 20? I gotta get down there. I gotta hurry up, get home, finish my homework, run to the arcade, and say I gotta get to level 20. Right? That was the competition right there for the fun of it. So no, good job. I like I said, I haven't played it myself. But I have heard of it before, and from what I've heard about it, it's actually a pretty good game for sure.
Yeah, very simplistic. And if I could succeed at it, folks, that tells you all you need to know.
So for me, number 3, this one right here, guys, actually, I would say 2 to 3 years ago, number 1, but when I start telling you my number 1 and number 2, I will go in depth onto it as into why I picked these top 2. But MLB The Show, absolutely amazing. I am a huge baseball fan. I love playing the game. I played in high school. I tried to play baseball after high school, and that didn't go well. I played like a year after trying to play in the Mexican League, and that was terrible. I was awful. When I got struck out by like a 60-year-old dude on a slider, and I was nowhere close to it, I decided that it was probably time to give up on my baseball career, and I started turning into softball, and that's a different story. That's actually fun. But MLB The Show, I'm getting off track here, guys, but MLB The Show, amazing as far as the game as a whole. To the graphics, to the gameplay, to stadiums, to basically franchises, to the Diamond Dynasty to play, to being able to play with legends. And I'm talking and baseball and basketball obviously have the best with the legend. Like I said, in basketball you could play with somebody as old as Bill. You could have Honus Wagner on MLB The Show, right? I mean, and for some of you who don't know Honus, I mean, he played back in the 1800s. Tremendous ball player, though. Tremendous ball player. So to be able to do that, to play with, and they've added a lot more players recently to these new ones that you weren't used to be able to play with at one point in time, and it's absolutely great. I love the game. I love the gameplay. I love the fact that they have the what is it called? I think it's like I don't want to call it Dynasty. They call it like the dynamic meter. So obviously, guys, you know, like you can play like in Madden, you can play as a rookie, you can play on rookie mode or all pro, all Madden, whatever. Everybody tries to play all Madden. What I like about the show is they do this dynamic one where they base it off of your talent is what it is. So if you're a better hitter in the game rather than not as good as a pitcher, it evens out that way. So they would basically base you off of what you're good at. You know, you may be a Hall of Famer as far as hitting, but you may only be, pro status at pitching, or vice versa. And that's what I absolutely love about the game, is that it does that for you. It goes off of your play style, your gameplay, because sometimes if you just go all out there and you just put it on the highest level possible, sometimes you're out there playing and you're like, man, this is just absolutely way too hard. Like I can't do anything. I'm getting struck out left and right. I'm getting beat up, this and that. And but that the meter changes. So like you may be starting to do well, but then you may be Hall of Fame status is hitting, but you might go in a slump. So they start knocking you down a little bit more. You're knocking you down till you find the right area. Boom, you're back into it, hitting again, things like that. Or you're pitching really well, and then all of a sudden you just get beat up in one game or something like that, right? So for me, MLB The Show, absolutely love this game, guys. I know a lot of you guys have probably played this. I mean, it's definitely coming out here soon. That was one thing I had to let the wife know. I was like, hey, MLB The Show's coming out here real soon. I'm probably going to have to spend a little bit of money to get this one out. But it's definitely one game that I absolutely love. Game that I will definitely continue to purchase and play as the years go on. My son absolutely loves this game. That's one thing, too. He loves baseball. guys. He's always ready to play. I mean, this guy constantly is downloading all the old ones on my PlayStation. I get on the PlayStation, I'm like, why is MLB 19, 20, 21, why are they all downloaded on here? And he's just like, me, I'm the one. I was like, well, at least you don't lie about it.
But you also said too that he enjoys playing golf now too, correct?
So yeah, that's actually something we're going to talk about here real soon on that one. So.
But real quick with MLB folks, and we touched on this just at the beginning of this, but it's hard to add to what Anthony's already talked about. But like I said, I've seen the game played. I experienced what I thought was an actual baseball game that Anthony was actually. It was a video game he was playing with MLB, and this is years ago. That's not the graphics that they have now. MLB is just head and shoulders above anything I've seen, and there's some outstanding graphics out there. But this is literally like just watching an actual baseball game, and I cannot believe how realistic it is. It's one of those games, and I can't play any type of baseball video game, but I can sure appreciate the effort that goes into it, the talent that it takes to be successful at it. It's this kind of game that's so visually beautiful that it almost encourages you just to try it, even if you don't know what you're doing. It's just a phenomenal game.
Definitely, for sure. Definitely. So moving on.
And that's going to be one that I haven't played recently, but I love two games actually, but it's an offshoot of the other, or it's sort of interconnected. But Mario Kart is my number 2. And I played this at a friend's house one night with his daughter was playing it with his wife, and I wasn't quite familiar with it. I knew the title, and I was just watching him play, and I said, is this Mario Kart? And they said, yeah. And they asked me if I wanted to try it, and that was my first time experiencing it, I think. And I thought, man, this is phenomenal. I mean, and racing games are pretty cool anyway, folks. I have played Formula One games, racing games that I thought were outstanding. One in particular was like this, like 24 Hours at Le Mans. And I watched one of my buddies play this game, and he raced for 24 hours. He did the races as 24 Hours at Le Mans, and I was like, good grief, that's hardcore devotion. But Mario Kart, it's simplistic, as we all know with the Mario products, but the graphics are outstanding. The racetracks are pretty cool. The way you can take people out, that type of thing. It's just a good game. It's a fun game. It's a family game. You're competitive about it. Maybe you don't want to win, but you try to finish at least second. I mean, but it's just that kind of game that you can get together with some friends and just have a good time with it if you've got enough controllers for it. But I like the graphics of most of the Mario type games. But the other one real quick I was going to mention, I didn't put it on the list, but I've played it. Maybe Anthony's played it too. They also have a Mario soccer game that is really freaking cool. And that's one of the games.
No, I have not played a soccer game.
Yeah, and I think that that might be why Target quit letting you play their video games, because I actually did that at Target, like I did Madden at Toys R Us, because I'd get on there and play that game. I think that's where I had a chance to play it the most. But what a cool game that is. The field is cool. It's kind of easy to hit goals. Pretty cool game. But Mario products are really great. But Mario Kart is my number 2.
And I'm with you too on the racing. I absolutely love it. I played like you said. I've seen that Le Mans one. I've tried that game out. I didn't do the 24-hour thing or nothing like that. That's insane. There's no way. I mean, maybe it's definitely not now. I probably could do it back then, but I'm not doing that now. We're coming up on almost my bedtime here, so I mean, how are you telling me I'm going to be up at but I played like the Need for Speeds. The Need for Speeds were great. Those were fun, but there is nothing like a Mario Kart. It's just so much fun. I mean, it's fun because it's fun for everybody. Like those Need for Speeds, those I've done NASCAR even, but those aren't something that you can get with the family, right? And you can't just get NASCAR and pull everybody together, the kids and the wives, and be like, let's play NASCAR. I mean, it's not. But Mario Kart that is Mario in general is fun for the whole family, right? I mean it's Mario. I mean, whether you're just playing the Mario Brothers game itself, whether it be on the Game Boy itself, you pull out or something, or you pull it out on the Super Nintendo, to Mario Kart. And I know everybody out here and a lot of people say, there's nothing like Mario Kart on Nintendo 64. Now, I never had a 64. I never played Mario Kart on 64, but maybe like once or twice, maybe at somebody's house. But I think a lot of people will agree, and I can't knock it because I remember playing it and it wasn't terrible. But a lot of people say the N64 Mario Kart was, without a doubt, might be one of the greatest games ever to be played.
Yeah, and I think real quick, and like you're talking about, it's a good family game. I think the kids love the characters, almost like a Disney type thing. But obviously with Mario characters, they're just friendly. They got colorful costumes. They make some interesting sounds, that type of thing. And
it's fun.
Yeah, and it's
absolutely
it's a good time, and it's nothing there for the kids that you have to worry about the kids seeing something or hearing something, that type of thing. It's
Definitely
a family game, and that's why I had Mario Kart number 2.
100%. Love it, Mike. Absolutely love it. So for me, number 2, guys, this one for me, Call of Duty Warzone. A lot of people are going to come at me because I know there's tons of Call of Duties. I know you can go to these Black Ops 3 and you obviously I can't even name all of them because I'm not a Call of Duty player, knowing all of them. But when I was told about Warzone, this was basically right around almost basically 2020 area, 2019, end of 2019 going into 2020. I had heard about this from a guy at work, and he's like, dude, you got to download Warzone. And I'm like, well, what the heck is Warzone? He's like, well, you ever play Call of Duty? I was like, heard of it, but I never played it. So like I said, once again, guys, I'm a sports guy. I'm a sports fanatic. I love playing sports games. I could do it all day long. But this Warzone, I was like, this is interesting. I had a few buddies of mine that were like, dude, you got to just get into these shooting games. You got to get into these Call of Duties. Like, it's fun. You got to try it out. I'm like, all right, let's try the Warzone. And the reason I tried Warzone out is because it's free. You can get it for free. You can play the game for free. Now, is the full game free? No, of course not. Like I said, everything comes to the price, right? They want you to buy other things. You can buy operators, you can buy guns, you can buy certain things. Like, there's all this that goes into it, correct? I mean, they have the battle pass each season that you have to pay for if you want to get extra stuff. It's gaming now. That's just the whole point. I get it. When I started playing this game, I was absolutely terrible. Awful. I mean, I had to play with my friend. And then, like I said, this is an online game. Everything's online about this game. There's nothing, unless you buy the full game and you do the campaign, you can do that on your own. But Warzone itself is all online. You have to play with people, or you can do solos. You can play by yourself, which solos suck because there's just too many campers. And what I mean by campers is like they just sit in the building and wait for you to run in, and then they just kill you right then and there. They're just sitting there waiting for you. So, but this game I absolutely sucked. I played with a few friends of mine. They had to carry me all the time. And now I've gotten to a point where now that I have my PC, playing on PC, I like to consider myself very good at this game now. I've actually just put in the time to do this. I play it all the time. My son absolutely will sit here with me and love playing with it. Like, because what they do is before every single match they have like a warm up for like they like drop you into the map, but you just warm up, like you just shooting around this and that until the timer goes off, and then they kick you into the Warzone game. So I'll sit him here with me, and he does all the warm-ups. He'll shoot the gun, he'll have fun with it, run around, and then when it's time to start, then he hands me back everything, and he plays. I'll even sit him here and just put him in solos and just let him run around the map, and he'll just have fun and do it. But this game has just really taken me over. I hated it the last season when they had Caldera out. It was not a very good game. Or no, it wasn't Caldera. Actually, was it Caldera? Yeah, Caldera I did not like. I did not like Caldera. The first season they had, which was the map was Verdansk, absolutely loved it. The problem was too many hackers. Way too many hackers in this game. When it started, they've gotten way better with it. Right now, I think this game's at its peak. And I could play this game all day long until sometimes I just get to a point, though, where I can't because I'm playing with other people. The teams and they piss me off because I'm like, man, where are these guys at? They're not helping me out and this that. But I felt like I've really gotten a lot better at this game. I play it all the time, absolutely love it. It's gotten way better, like I said, as far as them getting rid of the hackers, the gameplay, the gunplay. the guns you can use way better right now. Absolutely fun game to play.
But I've never played the game. I'm very familiar with the game because I've watched a number of people play it. As a matter of fact, my wife's one of her sons, he became pretty proficient at it. And I think that might have been where I first became familiar with the overall graphics. And see, when it came to video games, folks, whether they were throwback games or even current day games, I'm always about the aesthetics. The more realistic something looks, the more it kind of draws me in, because I'm just fascinated by the fact that you can make something look that realistic, and it's a video game. But watching him play, and to your point, Bud, because again, online, I'm amazed though that the players get so immersed in the game that sometimes it creates a frustration, and probably not that you're deliberately trying to get you're not trying to get frustrated with your teammate, but this is a team game. You've got to execute together.
I've gotten really frustrated. I've gone off on some of my. I'm not even gonna lie. I've gone off on some of my. And like I said, because I'll jump in and just play with randoms, and I've gotten mad sometimes. But I've played with my friends, and I've gone off on my friends playing this game. Because I remember when we were playing, when we started the first season ever, in that Verdansk map, you could sit on top of the airport, and the guys I used to play with, they were like, let's just go sit on top of the airport and snipe up there and just shoot. And I'm like, I want to get into this game. I want to start learning how to shoot. And every time, I swear, every time we were up there, another team would find a way to make their way up there, and then they would kill us. They would sneak their way up there and kill us. I'm like, this is why we need to stop just sitting in one spot, because we always die up here. It was either that, or we always used to die in a vehicle. We would be driving across the map, and somebody would just throw their C4, boom, blow up our whole thing. We're all dead. I'm like, can we get out of a car? And the only reason is because I wasn't familiar to this game, correct? So the way I got better and was learning about the game is I'd watch streamers. I'd watch other streamers do this stuff, see how they did it. Well, when you're watching these streamers, obviously they're great. A lot of these guys that do it, they're professionals. Some of these get into tournaments. They've been doing this their whole life. But their whole thing is, there's a couple of them that I watched that would kind of teach along the way as they're playing. And what I would always hear from them is, you want to push the other teams, get into the gunfight. That's the only way you're going to get better at shooting your guns, having your recoil down, get into gunfights, push these people, win the game. We weren't like that at first. It was always, let's kind of sit back, wait for the end game, and just kind of sit around and try to win at the end. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want to get better at this. Like, I suck right now, guys. Like, I want to. Every time, because that's the thing is, we'd sit and sit and sit, so you wouldn't get into any gunfights, right? So then, when you finally get into a gunfight, you're not prepared for the gunfight. So at that point, your gun's already all over the place. Oh shoot, there's somebody here. I gotta shoot, and you're dead at that point. So for me, I started taking it upon myself to play a little more with other random people by myself, and just start pushing, start doing more, just work at getting better at it, and that's just how I've gotten better. Now in my top tier, hell no. Some of these players, I'm in this game, and some of these guys, they'll shit on you like crazy, and you don't even know. No, I'm not kidding. It's like, you think you're doing well, right? I mean, you're like, oh man, I'm almost ready to have like my personal record game. I'm at like 12 to 13 kills. I got to get to 15. That could be on first. And then it's just somebody just humbles you, right? It's like 1v1. This guy comes at you, and you just get destroyed. And you're like, and you look at it, and sometimes, a lot of the time, like I said, people think maybe it's a hacker. And then you could, because they show like they'll re-show like the kill. It'll be like the kill video basically if you get killed, so that they can see if you're hacking. And I'll be like, that guy ain't hacking. He's just good. He's just better than me. And that's how it's always going to be in that game. Somebody is always going to be better than you. And I don't. That's the one thing for me is I don't mind that. I'm a gamer where I do not care if you're better than me. Then you're just better than me. Yeah, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong. It's a video game, right? I have no problems with that. Cheating, hacking, yes, I absolutely hate that. I mean, it's like why? I mean, for one, you're dumb to spend all that money to get all those hacks and stuff like that, because they're going to ban you anyways later on from the game. So that's stupid to pay all that money to put that on your system and stuff like that. And two, it's like, what's the point? Like, what's the fun of that? what's the fun of just going in there and being able to kill people and get through the whole entire map in a matter of, few minutes, kill everybody, ball game, it's over. Like that just doesn't. It feels like that would be pointless to play the game that way. Like, so for me, absolutely hate that part. But Warzone, top tier game for me right now. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add to that about is, and again, I've seen the gameplay stuff, but the graphics are outstanding, and I think guys and some ladies out there too enjoy those type of war games. But I think guys they have a natural draw to military type interactions and stuff. It's just something about war and taking a position or taking a territory. It's just, I don't know, they just kind of it's just some kind of draw that it has to it. But you couple that with the graphics of a game like you're talking about, and it's a can't miss. And I can see why people get into it because the graphics are outstanding.
Definitely, absolutely. All right, Mike. Well, we made it to the top of the list now. What do we?
Yeah, folks. Again, a game I don't know how many people are familiar with. This is actually probably one of the games I was actually really pretty good at. It's a game called Tempest. I became familiar with it arcade, obviously. I did see some home versions offered over the years, but it loses some of its effect when it's not on the actual arcade. And I'll tell you what, I love this game so much that I told myself, and real quick, the overall gist of the game, you've got a little knob, or what do you want to call it, that you turn. You manipulate your shooting device with, and you go on this little circular tunnel looking presentation that you're trying to get through. You've got all these little spikes and different little objects coming at you, and the whole purpose is to maneuver around the circle, and you keep firing and taking everything else. But there's spikes that are sporadically placed, strategically placed, where if you don't take these out, once the game transitions to the next level, if you don't have a clear lane, you're going to get destroyed in the transition. So part of the process is to take out the spikes, so that if you have to avoid the objects trying to take you out, you can still get through without having to worry about the spikes. And if in worst case scenario, you have a zapper that it'll just literally clean house, so to speak. You only can use it 1 or 2 times per screen, so you have to be very strategic in what you do with it. But it just wipes out everything, and you can use it at the beginning, the middle of that particular screen, just however you believe it's necessary to get through. But the game itself was great. It's a lot of shooting, which I've always loved. Games like that, killing, shooting, those are the ones that really draw me. This is the top end for me. And I always told myself that if I ever became rich, I may not have a lot of arcade games, but I would have this game in my house, and I would play this game quite a bit. This is one of the few games I really truly became addicted to, and I just absolutely love Tempest. And whether it's a picture or video, I don't think you can really fully appreciate it unless you play it in person. It just has that kind of, that's the effect it had on me, and I was actually really got pretty good at it. Not where I could play in a competition, but for me, being able to play a game fairly well, that was huge for me. But Tempest is my all-timer, but I love this game.
Man, I'll tell you what, I would just push the joystick and the fire button, just let that thing spin and spin and spin, and just keep killing, just hope for the best.
Yeah.
That's what, because obviously when I was introduced to Tempest and playing it, I'm not gonna lie, I love this game too. Yeah. I do love it. When you figure it out and you can play it the right way, it is fun. It's strategic. It's fun. Like Mike said, you got like these spikes that come out, and if the funny thing is you can. The thing is if you can clear the level,
yep,
you still have to move the thing, because when it takes you into the next level, if you're on that section where the spike is, and you go into the next level, it'll blow you up. So even though you think you're done with that level, guys, that doesn't mean you're fully in. You got to still maneuver it until you get to the next level.
Yeah, and that's a great point.
And go in.
And also, too, what I failed to mention is when the objects start coming at you, as you progress along to different levels, the higher you go, the faster they're coming at you. You really got to be able to maneuver through this, and that's where your zapper becomes a really big part of your strategy. Because, like I said, you get it once or twice per screen. So you really got to be careful with how you. But they come at you rapid fire. So you got to be really quick. But that's a great point that Bud made. You got to be ready for that next screen because that spike right there. That's a good point.
You have to.
I love
you
that.
have to. And some of them were, the thing is some of those spikes were super long, so you could see it. Some of them were even short at the bottom. So if you didn't pay attention the whole time, that was one of those games you had to pay attention the whole time, no matter what. You have to be locked in. You have to watch it the whole time you're playing it.
Yeah, and real quick, when it transitions to another screen, the best sound, what I equate it to, kind of, it makes this cool sound when it transitions to the next screen, almost like a jet engine firing. Kind of, you'd have to hear it, but it's a cool transition screen sound. But man, what an awesome game! I wish I could go buy this game right now. I'm talking about arcade. That's what I want. If I ever get money, I'm having that game in my house, arcade form, and I'll record it.
I'd expect nothing less. All right, well, moving on to me. My last one, guys. Mike had mentioned it. PGA 2K. Absolutely love this game right now, guys. I mean, it's to the point where for golf now, I'm actually becoming a huge golf fan myself. I'm actually, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I got out finally to play some golf. Been trying to get out and do some more. We've been going to Topgolf with the kids, but my kids and my wife even absolutely love this game. I'm not kidding, guys. For the most part, probably every day for the past like 2 weeks, every night before bed, we all sit down at the couch, we all put us together, and we'll play a round of golf on the PlayStation. We will go out and play a round of golf, guys. And it's to the point where my son and my daughter's still getting a little bit used to it. She's still learning some stuff on it and this and that. But my son, he can hit the hell out of the ball. He knows what he's doing. The funny thing is though, sometimes he gets a little he'll kind of veer off, and when he sees the water, he wants to hit the ball into it. So sometimes that's where we get a little off, because he loves it. He sees it and he wants to hit it right into the water, and it's all for fun, right,
Sure.
guys? This is all it is. But my wife and I have started actually getting competitive on this game. We actually will play against each other, and because at first she was just like, just having fun with it, I want to play, and now that we've been playing more and I've been teaching her a little more, I wish I wouldn't have taught her, because now she's even beating me. So this is the sucky part about it, but it's all fun, guys. It really is. That's part of the reason why I love this game, is because it's brought our family closer to being able to do this every single night, to watch my son enjoy the game of golf. Because to think about it, like growing up, like I said, I was a baseball player, basketball. Those are my two top things. I'm here thinking, my kid's gonna want to play baseball. He's gonna want to play basketball. I'm sure he probably will, but right now the top of the list for him as far as sports is golf. I mean, we buy him little golf sets he wants to play. Like I said, we took him to Topgolf. We might even go tomorrow. But being out there, they absolutely love it. He absolutely loves the game of golf. I love the game of golf. Like, I wish I was better at it. I'm not great. I played in high school. I was a lot better then, but golf is golf's a tough sport, guys. Golf is a really tough sport.
It really is. I'll tell you what, because I remember one year I bought you, I think it was Tiger Woods golf. I think that's what I got for you, but
yeah.
And I remember watching you play that. But I played golfing games. I played them on my phone. My bud has to, but I've played them in regular, video form. And this is the other thing too, and it's kind of strange, and we both played actual golf, like you're talking about, going out on the golf course. But even playing a video game, because the graphics can be so realistic, if you get the right game. That's
what I was going to talk about, was that, because we were talking about MLB The Show and the graphics, but the graphics to see, because like the thing is and that I love about like these games, like I talked about MLB The Show, NBA 2K, you can play Legends, you can play on these golf games at legendary courses.
Yeah.
Like you could play at Pebble Beach on these things, and you're seeing it's the actual court. It's literally, this is TPC Sawgrass, the 17th hole where it's on the island out there, surrounded by water, and it's just the green sitting on there, the par 3. That's on the game. Like you can play that hole. Like that's amazing. Like, I wish they had Augusta on there. That would be great. I don't know if there's maybe a way that I can maybe somehow down the road, because I have to do my career still, maybe you unlock it or something.
Yeah.
But playing Augusta, I think, would be absolutely amazing on that game. I've played it before. I mean, obviously, there's other games in the past that have had Augusta on there, and you can play this now. But that game alone, 2K, and it's going back to 2K, right? Like I said, 2K has always found a way to make their games great. And like I said, the graphics, just watching that and seeing the grass, you can tell the difference between the rough to the fairway to the greens to the bunkers. I mean, it's great. It's absolutely great. It makes you feel like you're there playing on the course.
Yeah, and it's also, and that was going to be one of my other points, but it really is, folks. I mean, I know it's not for everybody, but when I play a golfing game, it's relaxing to me. It really is. And here's the other thing too is, and I've actually, I talked to you about chess and playing that online, folks. That got a little bit, competitive. I've been online, bud, and I've played golfing games with people, right? And when sometimes they just randomly give you somebody to play against, they'll search and they'll pick somebody. I have yet, bud, to play against anybody that has ever been unsportsmanlike. As a matter of fact, they're almost complimentary sometimes. Or they'll even say, oh man, I'm not really doing well, or whatever, or great shot, or that type of thing, or good game, or whatever. I mean, I've never had a bad experience playing an online golfing game. And that's kind of what golf is about, being competitive, but being, courteous and just appreciative of the other person's effort, so to speak. And that's what's great about golf. But it's actually relaxing to play these games, these golfing games. And it's just cool.
on the console or in real life. There's just something about being out there on the course that's relaxing. Like being on a course, it's like everything else around you is gone. The noise is gone. Like, you're just out there enjoying just the peace, just being able to play. And even if you're not good, golf isn't one of those games where you're just like absolutely just torn apart by it. Like, oh my God, this is terrible. I just want to go home. It's like, no, it's still relaxing. It's still fun to play. It's still good to get out there and do it. And maybe it's not that for so much for people that do it all the time.
Sure.
And that are really, really good, obviously professionals. You see them break down and things like that. And I get it. I mean, that's what you do. That's your life. But like for somebody like me, it's just like I don't even care that I'm not good. I just want to get out on the course and just enjoy it.
Yeah, but real quick, and to that point, but I'm a hack golfer. If I play, I qualify as a hack golfer. I'm below hack. I'm hackless. I mean, I'm bottom of the barrel golfer, right? But that being said, I got into golf, so to speak, and Anthony played in high school and everything, folks. So he's done a lot with golf. But when I got familiar with golf through driving ranges and that type of thing, and so, but to your point, but from a person who doesn't really play that much but loves the game and watching and that type of thing, the first time I had a chance to step on an actual golf course and play. That's something I'll never forget unless Alzheimer's takes over. But that's a great experience, just to step onto an actual golf course and just go out there, and it's the most relaxing thing you can imagine doing.
Absolutely.
It's almost like walking through a park. And that's why someday I would love to pay people just to let me go walk Augusta, but I wouldn't have to play. Just let me go walk the course. And let me experience 100%. And appreciate this. But that's a great selection. But golf's got some great video games. They really do. And that's great to see that the families, they've got this common, thing that you guys like to do once in a while. That's awesome.
For sure.
Definitely. Great selection.
Well, great job, Mike. This was fun. This list was great to do. Obviously, like Mike said, I mean, he doesn't get into video games as much anymore nowadays as he probably once did. For myself, I don't play like I once used to. Like we all know when we were younger, we have all the time in the world to do what we want to do and things like that. And then as we get older, we get our our families and all this stuff and other things, work and things like that. But always remember, guys, take some time. If you are a video game person, take some time. Just take some time to do it. If you're having a rough day, at work, something like that, or just one of those days where you're just not feeling great, just throw on a game. Your favorite game of all time, just throw it on. Play it. Get away from the noise, get away from the drama, whatever you're around. Just throw it on and just enjoy it for a few hours, and then get back to the reality.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of this, right? That's the whole point of video games. It should be, right? Is to get away from that, to get away from the stresses of life and things like that, and to just be able to have fun, whether it be by yourself or jump on with some friends and enjoy it for a few hours.
Yeah, and don't let it be. I mean, it's okay to be competitive, but don't let it turn into some a game of insults and things like that. Take it from where it is.
Right.
It's a game. It's not life changing. You're there to have fun.
Exactly.
If it's with the family, that's great. If it's with friends, that's even better. But it's just there to have a good time and just appreciate, enjoying doing something together, And then the last thing I'll say is, we've talked about these games tonight. It's amazing to me how far, you mentioned it real quick with your dad, but it's amazing, folks, how far video games, I haven't played them all, but I've had a chance to appreciate the progression from a graphic standpoint. My first experience with video games, much like Anthony's dad was my dad, bought me like a Pong setup back like 100 years ago, and to see two blips, right? And it was kind of like a soccer thing or whatever it was, right? They had basketball and other things, but two blips. And one blip takes like 5 minutes to go from this side of the TV. And that's how you played it on your TV, right? From this side of the TV to this side of the TV. And it's like and this is the greatest thing in the history of the world when you're like 10 or 8 or whatever I was, to see stuff like this. But to see the progression from Pong to where it's at now, and people wearing headsets, and you're literally immersed into the game itself, that's insane. I can't imagine where it's going to be in the next 15, 20 years, but...
Yeah, who knows where it goes from here. Obviously, I'm not going to be one of those guys that are probably out here trying to buy the VRs and the things like that. I mean, the price of those are just insane. I mean, I'm lucky enough that, like I said, the wife and the kids were able to give me the PS5 because I didn't even know if I was even going to, kind of spend the money for that. And, and the one thing I will mention, though, that I am happy that I did do, and I think it's one thing that I will not regret doing, is getting the PC and playing on the PC now. That's huge, especially for Warzone. The console wasn't as great as far as like internet speed, things like that, or and playing on a big screen, because for Warzone you have to play on a monitor because you have to be able to see everything. If you're on a big screen, some 60-inch TV or something like that, it's hard to see everything and being part of the game. So for me, I love being on the PC, playing with it. It runs way smoother too. So that's even another thing that's kind of come a long way too, is the PC and all that.
The last thing I'll say about this, and I experienced this. This is a one-time experience, virtual reality video gaming. I was in a phone store, and they had a headset, and I asked the salesperson about it. He says, yeah. He says, would you like to try it on, just kind of see what it's about and stuff? And I said, yeah, I'll put it on. It's just put it over your head and all that stuff. And one of the video things they offered was something about going in the water and you're going to be experiencing a great white shark. And folks, I am terrified of great white sharks. I'm fascinated, but I'm terrified. But I kid you not, folks. When I put the headset on, it literally, the next thing is like they've dropped you into the water, right? And all you see is the water, but it's coming. I could literally feel my heart rate pick up. And I'm not kidding you, but folks, the minute, and I'm looking all over the place, I cannot see it, because when you're turning in the water, I cannot see this thing, and I know it's coming. And sure enough, I see the head of the shark coming off to my right, and I pull that headset off. I said, that's it, I'm done. That was too much for me, because the shark looked pretty freaking real, and I said, that's it, I'm good. I couldn't, there was no way. That was freaking me out. Wow. My heart rate actually increased.
Well, I've never thrown one of those on. I don't know what it's like. I haven't been on a VR system, but I mean, if somebody has it, maybe, and I'm over at their house and they offer it to me, I'll probably give it a try. But I'm definitely not going to be the one that buys it and probably has it myself.
It's great, I'm sure, but and they even have football. I think I've talked about that, where you can do it with the headset.
Yeah, I heard that one's not that great though.
Yeah, and I don't want to fall over the furniture because I'm trying to avoid a pass and break my knee in my own living room. And come on, how pathetic is that?
You're absolutely right. I'm with you on that for sure.
But
I'm not trying to fall all over the place.
Great subject tonight. Great subject.
Yeah, no, for sure. This was great. Next week, guys, we will get back into the beef of the week. Like I said, I know we didn't have it this week.
And we've got some.
Let us know if you guys prefer that. And we definitely have some stuff coming up for you guys. Obviously, top 10 will be back again. But next week for our top 10, we're going to do our top 10 hobbies to do. Get outdoor things or things to do. On top of that, obviously, video games is one of them. So we probably won't put that on our list because we kind of brought that in today, going into all the stuff like that. So it's going to be more of maybe outdoor things that we like to do, stuff to get out out and go and do things like that. So that's going to be our list for next week. So keep that in mind.
And Bud said streaking doesn't classify as a hobby, so I had to put that one on the shelf.
Right, exactly. But no, keep that in mind, folks, for next week. So if you guys want to make your list too, like I said, feel free to comment on our list for this week. Comment on the show. Let us know how we're doing for you guys. If you guys are enjoying everything, for sure, because we really enjoy the feedback from everybody that's taking a look at us getting back out this, and we absolutely love doing this, guys. I can't lie. I mean, this is something that Mike and I look forward to every single week, and we talk about, you know, every single day of things that we can add on to. So we appreciate you guys, you know, that have tuned in, watched us. Like I said, it's absolutely fun to us doing this each and every week.
Yeah, and real quick, folks, and just to add to what Anthony was mentioning, and obviously any comments you have, we always appreciate, like he's talking about. Obviously, that notification bell is there. If you ever want to just be made aware of what we've got coming up, certainly feel free to put that up there so we can let you know when we're going to be on talking about different things. And two final points of interest to me. One, as I always like to mention, first and foremost, is I'd like to again thank Mr. Anthony Alvarez for every single thing he does with this podcast. Without this gentleman right here, what you see, what we talk about is not possible without this man's efforts and just what the exceptional job he does with everything each and every week. And to him, I offer my sincere appreciation and just a wholehearted round of thanks for everything he does. And last, and also very important to me personally, this is my godson. Today is Saturday. This gentleman has a birthday coming up in 2 days, which will be obviously March 11th. So a very happy birthday. Well, actually, 2 day early happy birthday to you, sir. But certainly I cannot be on with my godson without offering him a happy birthday. So.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Obviously, without either one of us, this show doesn't happen, guys. I mean, it's not just me. It's not just Mike. Mike puts in so much work into this too. I mean, he's constantly throwing stuff out to me to that we could add to the show. Great input on a lot of stuff too. So don't sell yourself short either, Mike. I mean, you've done a lot for the podcast too. So we like I said, guys, we love doing this. This is something that we enjoy each and every week doing this for us. And I know we ran a lot longer than we normally do, but it's because this like I said, guys, this is one of our funner shows. This is one of the funner things we like to talk about, bringing all this other stuff. And I hope you guys enjoyed it too, for sure. So once again, have a great week. Hopefully you guys are able to catch the episode while, you know, throw it on while you're, you know, cleaning up the house. If you're at work, just kind of hanging out, throw us on. Let us know how we're doing. You know, like I said, each and every week we try to do as much as we can to for you guys, and hopefully you guys all enjoy it. But like I said, have a great week, guys. Enjoy it, have fun, and be safe out there.
See you soon, everybody. Have a good night.
I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up. I'm just doing me, everything is on me. Oh, you matter what? Add it up. Told her if it's all me, everything is on me. Gon' back it up. Matter what? Told you I'ma do